Archana, we can't hear you.
लाइव हो गया मैम.
हाँ कार्तिकेय जी सुनाई पड़ रहा है?
अब सुन रहे हैं.
अच्छा. A very good morning to all of you and welcome to this webinar. At the outset, I would like to express my gratitude to Honorable Madam Dr. Manju Sharma ji for her valuable suggestion to hold this meeting, and that too on very important aspect, that is nutrition, and which is very much related to human health and development, and especially the theme of the event, it becomes all the more relevant in the current scenario when the pandemic is taking toll and disrupting the human lives. So, and nutrition has to play a big role in enhancing our immunity in the fight against the pandemic. And recently, our Prime Minister also announced that the month of September should be observed as Poshan Ma, or the Nutrition Month, and it should be, in fact, people's movement. So more and more people should participate. So it is a need of the hour to observe this month jointly. I mean, the scientists should come forward as well as the people. NASI earlier also has several times addressed this problem on various platforms while holding its program on women and rural women and tribal women. And many times this problem of malnutrition has been addressed by NASI, and NASI also collaborated with ICMR and also executed a project at 3 places, Vadodara, Allahabad and Hyderabad. And we obtained recommendations for implementation. And recently and very soon, NASI is going to submit a proposal also on nutrition to the Department of Biotechnology. And this proposal aims to spread awareness among rural and tribal women, as well as educating them, imparting hands-on training to develop some nutritious products, and from the whatever available in their local area, and also intends to develop a nutrition model. So in this context, this webinar is going to be very beneficial because we will be getting more guidelines and recommendations for the implementation of this project. And I am also thankful to Madam Dr. Chandrima Shahaji, Honorable President of INSA, for developing this program as part of NASI-INSA joint activity. And I am very much thankful on behalf of NASI and my own behalf. I am also thankful to all the distinguished speakers who will be participating and enlightening us on this very important issue. And now I request Madam Chandrima Shahaji to please say a few words and introduce Dr. Shaili ma'am, the convener of this program. Thank you.
Yeah, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you, to Dr. Manju Sharma, Dr. Bamji, Dr. Madhulika, Dr. Paramjeet, Dr. Shaili, Dr. Professor Tyagi, and Professor Ghatak, and Dr. Singh. So I would like to introduce Dr. Shaili, who's the convener. And before that, I would just like to say a few words about the housekeeping things, is that we will have the keynote address for 25 minutes and the other addresses at 20 minutes. So please try to keep to that time. And we will not take questions in between. At the end of the session, if we have time, I will take the viewers' questions from YouTube and I will propose the questions. Now, I would like to introduce Dr. Shaili Praveen, who's head of the Department and Division of Biochemistry, IARI. And her research area is biochemistry, molecular biology, and plant virology. She's fellow of the National Academy of Sciences, the Indian Society of Agricultural Biochemists. She was visiting scientist at CREC in Florida and Scottish Crop Research Institute in Dundee, also a visiting scientist, CIB in Madrid, Spain, and visiting professor at King Saud University in Riyadh. She is the recipient of many awards like the World Bank Fellowship, Royal Society INSA Award, IARI Best Teacher Award, and twice UNESCO Associateship, Plant Virology Leadership Award, and Dr. P. Shield Memorial Lecture Award. It is a pleasure to have you with us, Dr. Praveen. I request you to say a few words in the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrima. आप सबको मेरा नमस्कार. Respected Dr. Manju Sharma, Dr. Mehta Bamji, today's keynote speaker, Dr. Akhilesh Tyagi, Dr. Paramjeet Khurana, Dr. Madhulika Agarwal, Dr. Namrata Singh, and my joint convener, co-convener, Dr. Chandrama Saha, and all the fellowship from National Academy of Sciences India and Indian National Science Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome to all of you. So today we all are assembling here on a virtual mode in the month of September 2020. Why I am emphasizing September and 2020, as Archana already mentioned, that September is a month declared as National Nutrition Month by our Prime Minister. And soon after, Dr. Manju Sharma has taken an initiative, although NASI is working very hard in the area of nutrition for the underprivileged and economic weaker section community, but Dr. Manju Sharma, in her guidance, we decided to celebrate this month by arranging this webinar on the theme nutrition in the era of pandemic. So I mentioned September 2020. 2020 is the time when we are undergoing such a very furious conditions of pandemic, and everyone is worried about nutrition, health, and immunity. So if you go to the Instagram and see from the last 4 or 5 months, there are 4.2 million posts indicating health, nutrition, and immunity. So this means every person is now worried about nutrition. Nutrition is a science which is relevant in all the era, but today's when we are undergoing towards the pandemic condition, everybody wants to have a good immunity by taking good nutrition. So today's theme is very well conceived by Dr. Manju Sharma, and I am thankful to my co-convener, Dr. Chandrama Saha, for arranging such important talks in this area. So today we are going to hear a keynote address from Dr. Mehta Bamji. And there is no need to introduce Dr. Mehta Bamji, because I can say in a one word that nutritional research in India is a synonym to her name. Then we are having other lectures by Dr. Paramjeet Khurana. He is very much associated with various NASI program where nutrition and economic weaker section community is involved. So she's going to speak on that aspect. We have with us with Madhulika Agarwal from Banaras Hindu University. And Dr. Agarwal is going to talk about nutrition in relation to underprivileged community. And since we know that India is a country where most of the population is vegetarian in diet, so Dr. Akhilesh Tyagi from Delhi University again focused on plant-based nutrition, which is really relevant in context to our country. So all this nutrition we are taking in the form of a diet. So it is important to hear the dietitian's view. So we are having with us Dr. Namrata Singh from AIMS, and she will give her deliberations on the various aspects of diet speaking. So this is just a brief introduction about today's webinar, which we are conducting through this virtual mode. And I'm pretty sure that we all are going to enjoy the scientific deliberations today. And now I request Dr. Chandrama to initiate the further proceedings. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Praveen. Now I have the task of introducing Professor Dr. Manju Sharma. I mean, it's very difficult to introduce her. Everybody knows her, and but still, I will formally introduce her. Ma'am, I'll just say a few words. She was the Secretary, Department of Biotechnology in Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. Her area of specialization is plant molecular biology. And she was most recently the President and Executive Director at the Indian Institute of Advanced Research in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Dr. Sharma played a significant role in establishing several institutions in the country. She was the president of the National Academy of Sciences and also the Indian Science Congress Association. She was conferred the Padma Bhushan by Government of India and also received the Lifetime Achievement Award for Human Service and Biotechnology for the year 2018 from Rewa University and Lifetime Achievement Award by Society for Ethnopharmacology in India. It is a delight to have you with us, ma'am. And I would really, it was your idea of having this kind of a joint symposium. So I would request you to please say a few words to us.
Thank you, Chandrima, for your very kind words. Before we start, I must say good morning to everybody and my very sincere thanks to Dr. Chandrima Saha, the president of INSA, as she immediately, the moment I called her and readily within 5 minutes, she agreed that yes, she is going to have a joint symposium with Archana, with INSA and with NASI. So I think, Chandrima, you have done a really very good job by getting some of the best speakers of the country. Professor Mehta, Bamji, I'm so delighted to see you. Particularly, you are looking good and you are in good health. So, and we are always dependent on you. As Chandrima said, nutrition without Dr. Mehta Bamji is nothing. Of course, I see Dr. Akhilesh Tyagi. Why, Akhilesh, we wanted you, knowing that you are a fantastic speaker, and also I have been listening to you on this subject some time back. So I know that you have a lot of interest in the whole area of nutrition. And again, I want to thank all other speakers, Paramjeet and Madhulika, and Shelly Praveen, who has been the convener, and everybody. I want to say that NASI all of you are a part of the integrated family, extended family of NASI. So thank you once again. I see Neeraj also. Neeraj, good morning and thank you. And Archana, of course, is the key person for having all such programs. Let me just say that, as has already been said, Honorable Prime Minister in his recent address, when he addressed the nation, he said, it is time to make nutrition a people's movement. I think it's a very good message he has given. And then he announced that September 2020 will be the Poshan Mah. He said, Poshan Mah means all of us whosoever can address some programs in this direction. He wanted that there should be a complete awakening amongst all the research institutions, academic institutions, and other social workers regarding the need for reducing the malnutrition amongst the people, because immunity at the moment is one of the most important factors. And I'll come to this in a moment. One more thing which I thought I must mention here in the beginning, NASI has been always very active, very proactive rather, whenever there is a program which relates to science and society. This is as per the direction given by our president, Professor Mehta, who founded this academy in 1930. Science and society is the very basis of NASI's program. And on the nutrition, on other areas of health, several other programs for employment, for safe drinking water, and many other areas, NASI has addressed in various regions. And I must again thank all the resource persons. Many of you are here who have been very actively involved with all these NASI's program in the implementation. Of course, NASI has also organized many seminars, symposia, one-day meetings like webinar, this type of meetings, so many things. So as soon as we heard that the Honorable Prime Minister on September, I wrote to several people in the country, many of the resource persons, to start, if possible, at least a one-day program or even a longer-term project on combating the malnutrition, especially amongst the women, children, is because children are very important. The Prime Minister also said education of the children is important, and unless they are healthy, how will they go about their education, and how will they even survive in this very serious area of the pandemic? So I just want to give a few examples of how we are very, I would say, not in a good position. I don't like to use any wrong words. So not in a very good position with regard to nutrition. India, all of us know that is the largest population of malnourished people in the world. FAO in 218 said that there are 200 million Indian children and women, and especially lactating women, pregnant women, women in rural areas who are malnourished. Children's stunting, wasting, underweight children, mortality, all this has been reported by FAO, and all of you are aware that these are some of the facts we have to take care as we go ahead and have some nutrition programs or even some lectures or webinars like that, because we must address to these issues. 1975, Government of India started the ICDS program, and also later on we had the Anganwadi. There are many other schemes. I must say that government is making a very conscious effort to combat malnutrition. And in the 2017, when there were several studies conducted, it was shown that children under 5, almost 38% children under 5 are stunting. Then 15% are wasting. 33% are underweight, and we are so malnourished that we are still under the sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, our population has more people than sub-Saharan Africa who are malnourished. We know that the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, if we can meet, I think we'll be very happy to reduce the malnutrition in the country. ICAR and CGIAR, they conducted a very good program. And why I want to mention this is because agriculture is the very basis of our survival, both from the viewpoint of economic benefits as well as food, nutrition, food livelihood security, etc. So ICR has taken a keen initiative, and they made very important recommendations also. I just want to mention just 2 or 3 of them. Education is key for spreading the message of nutrition. Information collation, that is what NASI is trying to do. We get the best of the information from the resource persons, from the programs which are being implemented in the country, and then we collate them and then disseminate that to further population. Attention on the maternal health. That is again, as I said, women are one of the worst sufferers of malnutrition. Proper delivery system. We have sufficient food production in the country, and in fact, our position is very strong in terms of more than 300 million tons of food grain which are available. But how is the distribution system? And that is a cause of worry, because the food items are not reaching the population who really need so. Midday meal program is one of the largest scheme in the world which is being implemented to combat malnutrition. Government of India, several agencies are trying their best to see that the midday meal, the nutrition is given in proper way to the children especially. Also to the women, but midday meal program is for the children and they must get the proper nutrition. Micronutrient deficiency and biofortification. These are two very important aspects of combating the malnutrition. Micronutrient deficiency, initially for a few years we were not even looking at that, but today we have realized that there is so much deficiency of these micronutrients like zinc and magnesium and sodium, that unless we look at that and supplement our food with micronutrients, we cannot combat the malnutrition. And biofortification, certainly most of the bioresource development programs are for value addition and biofortification of the resources so that they can become properly enriched for combating the malnutrition. I want also, many of you, I'm sure everyone must have seen, there is a very good article in the recent issue of Current Science, which says that, which brings out very clearly the haunting situation of malnutrition. And this is by Dr. K.K. Asha. And if you have not seen, I'm sure many of you must have seen, please see that article. It gives very sort of a disturbing pictures of the country. I just also want to mention that I started when Dr. Samir Brahmachari was the DGI CSIR. I started a very big program, a multi-institutional project with the 7 of the CSIR laboratories. And the project in 3 years gave excellent result. So many preparations were available like rice, milk mix, high protein, rusk, energy food, Nutri Chicky with the spirulina, sesame paste, Nutra Sprinkle, fortified mango fruit bar, CMAP Poshak. I'm sure all of you have heard the Medicinal Plant Institute has developed a very good product which has been commercialized also. The CMAP Poshak and CMAP False. Then fruit bars, excluded snacks, many like prepared with apple and other dietary fibers. So these are some of the examples that many of our laboratories are engaged in developing various types of recipes which can be actually popularized in the rural areas. What we really need, and I have been insisting this both with DBT and with ICMR, that, and also ICR, we must have a multi-institutional approach. You see, just one institution, ICMR alone or DBT alone or ICR alone, they will not be able to really tackle this problem. We need a multi-institutional, a multi-pronged strategy, a time-bound program to combat malnutrition and reduce these figures. Our situation is very sort of, I would say, very concern in the world, and we have to improve that. And if you want to meet the SDG goals by 2030, I think it is important that we go ahead and think of many multi-institutional, time-bound, multi-pronged strategy programs in the country. And I'm very happy that so many of my women resource persons, they are taking very keen interest. Particularly, I must thank Dr. Bamji. The moment I called her long ago for taking up a tribal project to improve the nutrition of tribals, Dr. Bamji was immediately, readily accepted our offer, and she has been implementing a very good program. Thank you, Mehta Bamji. It's such a pleasure to think that you are still working with us and having so many programs. So I want to conclude, I want to remind all of you what Norman Borlaug said when he had come to IARI. Shelley, I think you would remember in a very good evening lecture you mentioned, world peace will not be built on empty stomachs and human misery. Deny farmers access to modern technology and the world will be doomed. Not from environmental degradation, as some would have us to believe, but from starvation and social and political chaos. Unquote. This is Professor Norman Borlaug. So, friends, I once again thank our President INSA and all other guest speakers that you have assembled here to address such a serious matter as malnutrition in the country during this pandemic time. Thank you once again, and thank you, Chandrima, for the time.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I just want to say a few words before I go on introducing Professor Bamji and starting the keynote address. That the coronavirus pandemic has affected every aspect of our lives, and all of us have experienced this. Now, nutrition in these times of the pandemic and in the times to come, the next few years, is going to be very difficult, and nutrition takes a different dimension altogether than what we would do under normal circumstances. Now, while observing public health measures and reducing exposure to the virus is required to slow the spread of the disease, this is also a time to eat healthy and keep our immune system in top condition to fight the virus and even the other diseases, the non-communicable diseases like diabetes, heart disease, etc. Now, our country has many programs on nutrition, as Professor Dr. Sharma has alluded to. So I will not go into the details in that one. But still, I think the bringing out awareness is a continuous process, and that is why we should be having more of the discussions and seminars, etc., to make the public conscious about it. But while talking about informed choices on food, we should not forget the sections of the society who are unable to make informed choices due to economic constraints. Thinking along those lines, we have two talks, one on meeting nutritional challenges of the economically weaker sections and the role of plants in nutritional security of underprivileged during the COVID-19 pandemic. The other lectures will touch upon the context of malnutrition in children and plant-based nutrition as well. Lastly, I would like to say that the academies of India have their own niche, and collaboration between them in executing different programs would go a long way in serving the nation. When both NASI and INSA came forward to organize this event, it is an important step forward, and we complement each other. So I expect many more events on outreach programs to be organized jointly so that we can reach to the remote parts of the country and help the nation in a comprehensive way. These are the few points I wanted to make, and I will now go ahead and introduce Dr. Mehta Bamji for the keynote lecture. I am really delighted, Dr. Bamji, that you could be with us today. And she is an INSA emeritus scientist with the Dangoria Charitable Trust in Hyderabad. Dr. Bamji was with the National Institute of Nutrition for many years and served this institute in various capacities till she retired as director grade scientist. Dr. Bamji has made significant contributions in the field of nutritional biochemistry, particularly towards the understanding of the etiology of B vitamin deficiencies, development of tests for assessing vitamin nutrition status, as well as for estimating the incidence of vitamin B deficiency and its daily requirement in the community. Since her retirement, Dr. Bamji has been trying to evolve models for improving health, food and nutrition and environment security in villages of Medak district in Telangana through scientific and technological interventions. She co-chaired the health panel for Vision 2020 TIFAC and was a member of the Planning Commission 10th and 11th Plan Working Groups and Steering Committee for Science and Technology. She was also the Vice President of INSA. Dr. Bamji received many awards and honors. It's a long list. I will just mention a few. the Jawaharlal Nehru Birth Centenary Lecture of INSA, Archana Sharma Memorial Lecture Award. She's a fellow of the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, National Academy of Medical Sciences, and honorary fellow of the AP Academy of Sciences. The list would go on, but I think many of us know her very well. And let us not wait, but hear her keynote lecture. Dr. Bamji, I invite you to deliver your keynote address, please. Please test your voice so that we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
At the outset, I would like to thank both the academies for giving me an opportunity to speak on a subject which is close to my heart. I'm very grateful to Dr. Manju Sharma for her kind words. In fact, she has been a constant source of encouragement and inspiration to me. She is one of the few Indian scientists of which who has achieved great heights, and we have to be really proud. And the present, the, Dr. Shah is the first woman scientist who is the president of INSA. Congratulations. Now, coming to the subject of my talk, India has been suffering from the resistant burden of malnutrition. Manjuji, you have taken the thunder out of my talk by highlighting most of the things which I wanted to say. But never mind, I'll give some evidence.
So
Now, COVID-19 is, as you will say, the last straw that broke the camel's back. Now, today, like many countries, developing countries, India is suffering from double burden of pre-transition diseases like undernutrition and communicable diseases, COVID-19 being the newest. And it's also now suffering from post-transition diseases, overweight, obesity, hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. And nutrition has a link between the two, as I shall point out. There is increasing incidence of suicides and accidents amongst particularly youngsters, which is a very worrisome situation. Now, amongst the areas of concern, the recent Global Hunger Index ranks India as 102nd among 117 countries, with many of our neighbors being ahead of us. This Global Hunger Index takes into account undernourished population and malnutrition in children and infant mortality. 40% of women, adolescents, and children, adolescents, particularly girls and children, suffer from nutritional anemia, which has a very devastating effect on our health and productivity. The incidence of malnutrition is almost 25%. At the same time, there is a rapid rise in obesity and non-communicable diseases and diabetes. I shall give you the link. Green Revolution certainly pulled India out of very dire situation to food sufficiency in terms of cereal, from ship to mouth position to self-sufficiency in cereals. But it bypassed pulses and millets. Green Revolution had unfortunately adverse effect on environment because it is chemical intensive, water intensive, and so on. India is among the top 3 producers of vegetables and fruits and milk. And despite that, as Manjuji said, because of distribution problem, large percent, I will show you some data which shows how deficient we are in terms of these protective foods. Everybody blames the low productivity in India to technology. But a malnourished country cannot be a productive country, whether it is agriculture or any industry or anything else. The problem of wastage is very huge. 25-30% of vegetables and fruits are wasted. And now we have this impact of climate change about which there is a lot of talk, but very little being done. And as I said, that last straw that is breaking the camel's back is the impact of corona pandemic. Now, God doesn't want children to be born with low birth weight. The causes all related to women, maternal malnutrition, age, gestation, etc. The consequences of low birth weight are very serious. There is low birth weight babies have 6 to 9 times higher perinatal mortality, that is mortality within 1 week. Adverse future pregnancy. A woman who is born with low birth weight is likely to continue give low birth weight girls, and this is a multi-generation effect. There is stunting. Manjuji gave some statistics. Impaired physical mental performance. This is something which we have to really worry about, fetal origins of adult diseases. And this is now that it has been shown that intervention has to be within the first 2 years. In fact, Barker, with whom I had chance to meet, late Dr. Barker, he said it should be within 1 year after birth. Now, what is this fetal origins of adult disease? Those born with low birth weight due to intrauterine malnutrition are more susceptible to lifestyle associated diseases like type 2 diabetes, hyperlipidemia, hypertension, cardiovascular disease in later life. So if you are born in rags, you better remain in rags. If you move from rags to riches and change your lifestyle, you are likely to be sitting ducks for getting all this. And these are epigenetic effects, and they bring about change in fat to protein ratio of the body. Now, as Manjuji shared, we are now trying to reach the Sustainable Development Goal. Towards the turn of the century, UN came out with Millennium Development Goals. Unfortunately, India failed to reach those goals. And in 2015, the Sustainable Development Goals have come, and there are about 17. I have only listed a few. We have to reach them by 2030. Now, if you see, the second goal is end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable development. Now, Niti Aayog is doing a wonderful exercise of trying to find out to what extent different states are achieving these goals on a 100-point scale. And here I've listed out only a few states and a few goals. But what is very, very worrisome is the fact that goal 2, which is hunger and malnutrition, if you compare the 2018 report with 2020 report, we are actually sliding down several points. In gender equity, our performance has improved a little, but still it's very low. Where we have done very well is clean water and sanitation, and this I attribute to the Swachh Bharat program of Prime Minister. And some of the states like Gujarat and Maharashtra have done extraordinarily well in this Swachh Bharat program. Amongst the states, Kerala, of course, is at the top. But what is another area where we have done is economic growth. But what is worrisome is, take for instance, Gujarat. Its economic growth has been good, but that has not reflected in poverty reduction. So somehow there is unequal economic growth. And therefore, this exercise shows and tells the states where they are lacking and what they should be doing. Now, recently, the State of Food Security and Nutrition, SOFI report has come out. It is a multi-institutional report. And this report says prevalence of moderate and severe food insecurity in India increased from 77.8% in 2014-16 to 31.6%. Another evidence of slide down. The cost of undernutrition is very serious. Every third child deaths are due to undernutrition, due to greater severity of disease. Undernutrition between conception and 2 years, this is 1,000 days, is the most important period. They have lesser physical and mental development, affecting productivity. Economic cost of undernutrition is direct due to increased burden on healthcare and indirect due to low productivity. Child anemia alone is associated with 2.5% drop in. And what about human suffering? World Bank has said developing nations should reposition nutrition as central to development. According to a group of economists, Nobel Prize winner economists, in Copenhagen consensus, investment in nutrition is one of the best buys that developing countries can make for economic growth. This is what Bill Gates has to say. He says if he can wave a magic wand to solve any global health problem, he would use it to end malnutrition. It's easy to understand why almost every challenge we face in global health and development also is made worse by malnutrition. It makes sick children sicker, poor countries poorer. It robs young people of the opportunity to reach their full potential, and it traps communities in cycle of poverty. Now let us have a look at what do Indian diets have to say. Surveys done mostly by National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, which unfortunately has been closed down. This was one organization which gave us some valuable data. It shows that Indian diets are qualitatively deficient in micronutrients, all these vitamins, due to low intake of vegetables, fruits, legumes, and the protective foods, and poor exposure to sunlight, vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency has become a new worrisome area. But within a family, the worst affected are preschool children, pregnant women, and adolescent girls. And as Shanti Ghosh used to say, if there is enough food in the family, why should preschool children? This is a case for ignorance, lack of awareness. And time trends, as I've been showing, has shown reduction in intake of all food groups and nutrients. Now, recently, the Lancet 2019 EAT report has come out. This group has tried to develop a good diet, a reference diet. And these authors have tried to compare that diet with Indian diet using all income groups and other groups. Unfortunately, they could access only the NFHS 4 data, because though NFHS 5 data is ready, for some reason, it's not being made public. And it shows that Indian diets are very low in protein, as well as micronutrients, and very low intake of meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, etc. The share of calories from protein sources was only 8% compared to 29% in reference report. Though we are the largest producer of vegetables, this is the average, mind you. The people eat 15% less vegetables than reference, and rural people 25%. But if you go to the poorer segments, the deficit will be more. The most worrisome is that we are not eating fruits. And fruits are the major source of vitamin C, because even though vitamin C is present in other vegetables, it gets destroyed in cooking. So if we don't eat enough fruits, we are not getting enough vitamin C, apart from other vitamins. Now let us see what is doing impact of COVID. I don't have to stress the enormity of the economic problem due to the lockdown. And that has reduced access and affordability to protective foods. When you have less money, you try to buy the cheapest foods, which are the cereals. Manjuji mentioned ICDS and midday meal program. These are fantastic programs, which are really protecting the children from getting malnourished. But unfortunately, ICDS centers have shut down, schools have closed down, and midday meal is not given. And for many children, this is a major meal. In some states and some Anganwadis, take-home food is still being given. Now, government and NGOs are trying to reach food to people who are starving or who are migrants and things like that. But the food that is given is mostly cereal. The cereal pulse ratio is highly skewed, and therefore, we need to increase availability of pulses through PDS. there is a total neglect of primary. The whole attention has now gone to COVID, and there is total neglect of primary health care and antenatal care. And folic acid distribution has suffered, immunization has suffered, etc. Now, recent study has shown that micronutrient deficiencies, not recent, we have known that, affect immunity. And we cannot afford to lose immunity. So this is another big problem. This is the time, as Manjuji said, we have to have good database and good long-term programs, not just to find out what is happening to heights and weights, but also to see how the next generation is going to suffer from Barker's hypothesis, the non-communicable diseases. Now, there are many approaches to combating micronutrient deficiencies. One is the pharmaceutical supplementation, and India has anemia prophylaxis program, vitamin A supplementation program. This is essential when the problem is very acute. Then we have very good food fortification program. Iodized salt is a success story. But NIN has developed iodized salt fortified with iron and iodine. Some houses, double fortified salt hasn't received the attention it certainly deserves to get. But now there is I'm told that oil is fortified with fat-soluble vitamins A and D, and there is a program for fortifying wheat in India. The food-based approach means dietary diversification through nutritionally sensitive and environmentally sustainable agriculture. And Manjuji mentioned biofortification. It helps the food-based approach. This can be done. This can be done through conventional breeding or molecular breeding or genetic engineering. Unfortunately, genetic engineering is a very powerful tool, very effective tool, but there is wrong propaganda against this very good method in India. Now, food-based approach, unlike supplementation and fortification, can address is a more holistic, balanced, and sustainable and empowering approach with little danger of. There are evidences to show that excess supplementation can lead to some kind of toxicity. So this is a more balanced approach. Now, in food-based approach, the primary thing is agriculture has to be leveraged. Fortunately, in India, 50-60% of the people live in villages and they are engaged in farming. But for this, our agriculture scientists and extension workers should be knowledgeable about nutrition. For them, agriculture is for income and export, at the most meeting calorie and protein needs. They look at agriculture as a mean of earning money, and that money can help nutrition. They don't look at leveraging agriculture for nutrition. Then there's homestead production of vegetables, fruits, legumes, etc. I use the word homestead instead of kitchen garden or home garden because very often there isn't enough space around the home. So we should allow the farmers to grow vegetables and fruits and motivate them to diversify their agriculture from monoculture to polyculture. Urban agriculture has helped many countries like Cuba, but unfortunately in India it has not caught up sufficiently. We need to have nutritionally promoted social marketing strategies. The Food Security Act of India provides entitlement to cereals and millets. Thanks to Swaminathan, millets were also included, to 75% resource poor individuals. Unfortunately, the food basket does not give except millets. It should try to give pulses at least. Now, what are the other? As Manju said, we have a lot of food in our godowns. So this is the time now to just open the godowns and let this food flow out. We have to make every effort to include pulse and oil besides cereal in the public distribution system and in any kind of food distribution system. Today, we have a new group called neo-poor. The low middle income families for all that have now slipped into the category of poor. I'm told that the primary school teachers have not been paid, private school teachers have not been paid for months. And one of the NGOs with which I'm associated has shown how poor they have become. They are eating rice and salt for food. One of the most successful schemes in this pandemic time is the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. This act has really saved India by giving employment not just to the unskilled, but also to skilled workers. And I'm told one of the reports said that for a change, the scheme is doing very well in creating useful resources for water harvesting, water storage, etc. And I would say that apart from cash, part of the payment can be in terms of food. Cash payment is very good, but sometimes the banks are very far and people cannot reach them. Now, dietary diversity is certainly the mantra. It is always, but having worked in this area for 15, 20 years, I know that some things are easier said than done. It's not always easy to make sure that people get enough vegetables, fruits, pulses, millets, etc., and animal foods, most importantly, animal products. So we have to consider giving vitamin mineral supplements in low doses. I insist this is close to recommended dietary allowance dose. In hotspots like slums and urban areas particularly, I have made this recommendation to the Prime Minister also. But some of my nutrition scientist colleagues feel that this will give a wrong message to the pharmaceutical companies and they may exploit it. We have to tame them. We have to bring them under corporate social responsibility. But as Manju said, the most important thing is educating the community. Today, many eminent scientists have suggested cash transfer. Very good. But along with cash transfer, communities has to be educated how best the money should be used. Otherwise, it will be used for frivolous things. You have to find money for maternal and child health. It cannot wait till GDP grows. If the country can find money for modeling Parliament House, building secretariat, building monuments, building statues, why can't it find money for this? It has to. This is the priority. As was said, this month has been declared as the Rashtriya Poshan Maha, and there are two major requirements. One is identifying and tracking of children with severe malnutrition and treating them. And the other one is plantation drive for nutrition. Now, nutrition garden, which used to be confined to some of us talking, Dr. Swaminathan has been promoting it in a very, very big way, and we have been promoting it. But now many states have taken up this idea, and they are using the Mangrega scheme for promoting nutrition garden. Now, can I speak for another 5 minutes? Hello?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Dr. Bamji.
Now, let me discuss some of our work. Dangoria Charitable Trust is interested has been trying to see the impact of nutrition gardens and backyard poultry. We are working in Medak district, and we are targeting families with pregnant women, 6 to 24 months old children, and our package includes distribution of seeds and saplings of nutrient-dense vegetables. Green leafy vegetables are nature's gift to this country. They are packed with nutrients, and yet they're easy to grow. They can be grown all around the year, and this is such a variety. But yet NNMB data shows that only 30% intake is there. Now, to get planting material, we are giving seeds to women to raise backyard nurseries, to raise saplings of papaya, drumstick, basil alba, which is a deeper spinach. And this way, women earn some money and we get our planting material. We are promoting millets and pulses, including some of the iron-fortified bajra and things like that. I'm scared to go completely organic because I'm not an agriculture scientist. But we are promoting vermicompost and botanical pesticides like neem seed decoction and chili garlic. Neem is another gift of nature. You can make very good pesticide with it. You can make very good fertilizer with it. And in one of the villages, we have set up a production unit for neem seed powder. The self-help group women are producing it and selling it with proper labeling, and there is good market for it. We are promoting backyard poultry with high egg yielding breeds. These birds lay 140, 50 eggs per year, unlike the normal birds that lay 30, 40 eggs. But here we cannot afford to give free birds. So the families buy these birds, and they are buying. We have centralized in our Narsapur Center and hands-on training in villages. But most important part of our project is behavioral change communication to educate the community, particularly women, mothers with preschool children. I may tell you something very interesting. Literacy has amongst women has gone up in our area substantially in recent times. And therefore, now we are printing pamphlets with important messages so that even if the woman is not able to read, there will be somebody in the house who will be able. Instead of spending money on big posters and things like that, these inexpensive pamphlets are very useful. Now, most families have some land. It is unfortunate that now land is getting fragmented, but as a result of this, most families in villages, we don't have big farmers and small farmers. We have only small and marginal farmers. And they have own land most of the time, and then otherwise they have hired land. It is very difficult to make a farmer change his cropping pattern, but with advocacy and education, we are able to do that. Initially, only 30% families grew vegetables, but now, after intervention, over 90% grow them. I tell you, I have great faith in education. And I'm myself very pleased with what we are seeing. What we do is we do a knowledge attitude practice survey to find out the existing knowledge initially, and then at the end. And we find that the improvement in mother's knowledge and hopefully practice of food, health, even infectious diseases, nutrition, infant feeding practices of mothers, and this tremendous improvement. Unfortunately, all our data is published if anybody wants them, but this is what has happened. I'm very pleased with this outcome. There is also improvement in family diet. This strategy may be able to provide families with food, provided you tell them that what you grow is for home consumption. And for poor families, income is more important than nutrition wisdom. The compulsion of income is more important than nutrition wisdom. So they will try to sell unless you keep on harping this. With backyard poultry, we are able to show improvement in the families buy just 4 to 5 birds. And my veterinary scientist said, with 4 to 5 birds, how can you earn anything? I said, the idea is not to earn, but the idea is to increase home consumption. We have not tried to take heights and weights, but we are using ICDS data for 6 to 24 months old children. With all this, we are able to bring down in 3 years up to about 20%. But below this, we are not able to go little less than 20% because there are other factors. And as you see, there are peaks during monsoon. And this is monsoon, well-known monsoon morbidity. And I am hoping that with the present Swachh Bharat, now I will be happy to tell you, I'm happy to tell you that in our villages, there is 100% construction of latrines. And at least women claim that they are using it. I will skip through some of these. These are the nurseries, some of backyard gardens, big garden, our training program. You see, women come with children to these training programs, and then we also have cooking demonstrations to educate them. This is a vermicompost pit, another vermicompost pit. This is a backyard poultry. Now, we have set up a rural hub for wider dissemination of our model. And in that, we have got some help from NASI for reaching out to tribal women, tribal villages. Unfortunately, in this program, we take 5 villages or appropriate more villages if there are small villages. Each program runs for 6 months, and our target is pregnant women, mothers with preschool children. Unfortunately, this project started in March, and then the pandemic came. So now we are not able to get the women to come to our center. So what we have done, and here again, surprisingly, in these tribal areas, literacy amongst young women is very good. So we have made pamphlets about the precautions to be taken during for COVID and about the nutritional aspects. And we are involving Anganwadi workers and ASHA workers because they are the sustainable individuals. They are the champions of nutrition. So you have to have 2-dimensional agriculture planning, promote economically viable crops like paddy and sugarcane in our area. At the same time, promote homestead production. It assumes great importance in Corona pandemic because not only the availability, but access has come down and transportation has been affected. So what is the bottom line? Leadership at all levels and governance to ensure convergence between the efforts of different departments, government departments and other departments. Again, Manju has spoken about it. Make nutrition an important input and output parameter for all government programs that can directly or indirectly impact nutrition. Health, nutrition, education, environment, and gender equity should be the indicators of national development and not trickle-down benefits of economic growth. We wonder why China is doing so well. We may not like the communist regime, but communists have paid highest attention to health, nutrition, education. And that's why we are trying to build castles on a foundation of straw. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bamji, for such a wonderful, elegant lecture. And you have directly related the nutrition to education, which is very, very important. And once we have education for all, I hope things will improve much more. Both Dr. Sharma and you have really touched upon very, very relevant points in nutrition. We will just now go ahead and with Dr. Paramjeet Khurana's lecture, and I will introduce her. She is professor and head of the Department of Plant Molecular Biology, University of Delhi South Campus, and her area of specialization is plant biotechnology and molecular biology. She is fellow of the Indian Academy of Sciences, National Academy of Sciences, Indian National Science Academy, and National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, and the Third World Academy of Sciences. She is also a Jesse Bose National Fellow. We are so happy, Professor Khurana, that you could join us today for this important symposium. I invite you to deliver your lecture. Yeah, your mic is muted. Your mic is muted, Professor Khurana.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just thanking you and Dr. Manju Sharma for this excellent initiative, a joint initiative of INSA and NASI, which actually connects the science with the society. And being an active participant in both the programs, and especially very intricately associated with NASI's programs on science and society, with women programs and with the tribal programs, the topic which I chose for my presentation today is rather little more not general. But before I start with my topic, I would like to admit that I am no expert in the area, and what I'm talking of is rather more as an outcome of my experiences which I've gained by interacting with the various economically weaker sections of the society at the grassroots levels. Yeah, so the topic which I gave for today is meeting the nutritional demands uh, of the economically weaker sections of the society. And as rightly mentioned earlier by both Dr. Manju Sharma and Dr. Mehta Bamji, that the COVID times have actually acted like a double whammy, with climate change itself having a major impact. And now with the COVID pandemic, I think it is really challenging to meet the nutritional demand, especially with the that's why I said for, and or it could be for the economically weaker sections of the society. So I would like to start from the early when man was not a farmer, he was a hunter, and later he transitions to the gatherer, and now later we see has moved from a hunter gatherer to a farming community. So there has been an evolution of man, early man, from a hunter to a gatherer to a farming society. And it is in this context that I would like to indicate that there's been a transition. Earlier, we used to just say, think globally, act locally. Okay. But today, this phrase has also been changed. And now the newer phrase which I find is not only think globally, act locally, but think tribally, act universally. And it is here that I see that the NASI's mandate, which fits in very well, especially with the tribal programs and the women programs and others taking shape. And in fact, what you see is when you locally target a particular population, of, I would not say only tribally, just the economically weaker sections, then that you see the effects in a universal level as such, I would say. Sorry. Why is my slide not moving? So when we look at the economically weaker sections of the society, and especially the farmers, I think what is most important here is three things. One is food, providing food, feed, and fodder. I have intentionally included feed and fodder because I think it is not only feeding food for the farmers themselves, but their entire ecosystem, the support system, the cattle, the other paraphernalia also, which is under stress in these challenging conditions, and we must address these problems in a very cohesive manner. Economically weaker section people of the society, while they are the custodians and they are responsible for providing food to the major urban population, they also help in preserving this diversity which exists in the various cereals and the lesser cereals. The diversity, which is lesser known but now gaining more attention and popularity, they are not only preserving it, responsible for the preservation, but also now there is a reversal, and people have started looking at these cereals or lesser cereals, I would say, in which case I include the millets as well as to how. But of the urban population, I find that whenever you say that what about the nutrition under challenging conditions, everyone's been advocating over the board for superfoods. Superfoods, eat nuts, there's too much of advice available on various social media and others by experts as well. But what I find is that the divide here is the urban versus the rural divide. While the urban population can exploit the superfood which is available to them depending upon their economic resources, what about the rural poor? They surely cannot be investing in almonds and nuts and other things to enhance them. Nothing against them, but we need to be a little more sensitive to their requirements as well. And that is where I find that some of our products, like Dr. Mehta Bamji just mentioned, that the millets come in as a very good second challenges, second supplements. So these alternate grains, whether they are red amaranth or yellow amaranth or sorghum, barley, barley, buckwheat, and different types of millets, they fill in a very nice lacunae which is left, not nice lacunae, they fill in a lacunae which is left by the lack of availability of the major crop plants. Because when you look at the major crop plants, what the farmer grows is generally the wheat and rice, depending upon, and maize, depending upon the season. But We also need to promote the cultivation and the multiplication of these alternate grains, I would say, in here. With a special reference to millets, millets are extremely good plants because number one, they are not only drought resistant, that means they don't require too much of farming. You can cultivate them under challenging and marginal soils. They can also be, they are ideal for dry land and where no tilling is required. And to couple it, millets are very high in protein, vitamin A, vitamin B, iron, calcium, and other phytochemicals. For some of the people who are gluten intolerant, these are also gluten free and can do that too. Millets help in the cardiovascular diseases and they help in bringing down a lot of incidence of the colon cancer and gastrointestinal related complications. But what interests me the most is that the millets have a high amount of calcium than rice, in fact, 3 times as high as that. And most of the gastrointestinal diseases, these are the ideal sources of carbohydrates for them to be. Not that millets are not popular. Millets are grown throughout India in different states. They are popular by different names. You call them different names in different regions. Jawar, Bajra is what we know, and Ragi is the usual Hindi names. But the local dialects also have their own names, and especially in the southern states of India, they are very popular. They are popular and popular amongst the economically weaker sections, especially popular amongst the labor class, popular amongst the poor people of the society. But what I want to mention is that in our quest for overgrowing crops and other things, we are sort of neglecting diversity which is there. We need to be harnessing this natural diversity, whether it is there in case of vegetables. In fact, you rarely see more than 2 types of tomatoes in the supermarkets in the urban sector. But in the rural scenario, you see lots of other types of tomatoes. This picture just depicts the amount of variation which is there in tomato. You have about 7,000 varieties of cultivated tomato which are grown. And each type of tomato having a different nutritional content to it. And we need to be harnessing this genetic diversity. In fact, in the African continent, they have harnessed already this diversity in the sweet potato. The sweet potato, which was earlier whitish, the meat was whitish in color, is now nice golden orangish in color, thanks to high amounts of beta carotene in it. And in fact, you can see all shades of the content, the starch colored starch here, not only yellow, but orange and even the purple colored ones. Now, each of these colored and pigmented types have its own nutrition because of the various phytochemicals which are present there. And mind you, these are all natural variants. They are not genetically engineered. These are mutants or other hybrids which have been created, and they're very good. And since they can be vegetatively propagated, so they are easier to propagate and spread and multiply them as well. In fact, if we continue further, we generally we have seen different types of carrots in the markets in different seasons, but there's a big community globally who has seen only the orange type of carrots. You show them the red carrots, they have not seen the black carrots, absolutely no. So we need to be harnessing this diversity which is existing in our vegetables and other crops from the nutritional point of view, because the nutritional content of these colored carrots is different. Similar is the case for the sugar beets as well. Sugar beets, people prefer the dark one, but you have other types as well, and you have different content. Interestingly, I would like to bring up the case of the cauliflower. While Indians and world over, we are obsessed with the white cauliflower. And the white cauliflower head, what we get in the market is usually not necessarily the natural white, but it is the bleached white cauliflower heads which are available. You might look for other lighter shades, natural variants, natural pigments also. And now, interestingly, at least in the West, these colored, the purple, the green, and the red, yellow colored cauliflower has made it to the supermarkets as well. Not so much in India, but abroad, yes. And I think since we also have this variety, this diversity available in the Indian scenario, we must make sure that we exploit this diversity as well, and especially for the when you get more subnutrients within the same thing. So I think it's a very. We have been doing that for the green leafy vegetables. The amount and the diversity of green leafy vegetables which are eaten in Indian continent, especially northern India, is tremendous. The West is not yet at par with that. But we need to also integrate the colored greens now with our greens as well, which give us added advantage, and especially many of the greens which we discard, like turnip greens and others. In fact, if you look at, they are a better source of nutrients and other things as compared to the others. The color purple, I think this is another group of plants and fruits and vegetables which have this purple colored pigment because of the anthocyanins which are there and which are highly antioxidant in nature. We have usually seen the brinjal, we have seen different colored brinjals, but there are beans, there are fruits, there are vegetables, the onions, of course, are there, and even the red cabbage. These are nutritionally are better as compared to the other plants. For the economically weaker sections, they do not have access to apples and oranges all the time. So I think we should advocate, we should patronize, and we should educate them that even the wild fruits and berries are excellent, and they can source them through different regions, or depending upon the environment climates, they can do that. This is the picture of jamun, the star fruit, the bears, the mulberries and other berries, the karandas, and even the wild gooseberries. These are rich sources of vitamin C's and other nutrients which are present in them. So basically, the new concept of eating the rainbow, which is prevalent in the urban sector, needs also to be transferred to the rural sector. The red colored products, the fruits or vegetables which have high content of lycopene and anthocyanins, are especially good for heart, for your memory, for the GI tract, and for their health. The orange and the yellow fruits and vegetables, which have high carotenoids and bioflavonoids, which are present in them, they are good for health and many of the immune system. The lutein and the indoles, which are present in the green leafy vegetables, are good, especially for the eye and for bones and other things. Similarly, for the purple and the blue colored fruits and vegetables like the cabbages, the plums, the blueberries, the blackberries, figs, eggplants, they have high content of anthocyanins and phenolics, which have very good antioxidant and anti-aging benefits. They not only help in improving your memory, but they also promote healthy aging. Not to forget the white colored products also, white colored ones like cauliflower, ginger, garlic, and potato, because they contain special phytochemicals like allicins and others, which also have extremely health beneficial effects in them. Okay. So, besides integrating the colored food and vegetables into our diet or into their diet, I think we should also advocate the use of fermented and pickled produce. The pickled produce is something, pickling of vegetables and other things is when you want to store the food for a longer time, while when you ferment the food, you convert the sugars into acids and gases by the action of alcohol or action of yeast and bacteria. And many products which are there, and some plants, some products have a combination of both pickling and fermentation in them. Why I'm Asian countries, pickling and fermentation is a big industry and consumed very much so, especially in the Oriental countries as well. And even in India, pickling and fermentation, not fermentation as much, but pickling, yes, to quite a bit. These are the practices, these are little add-on baby steps, I would say, which add to the boost in every bite. What do I mean by that? I mean, whatever we are eating, can we add some extra nutrient to it by simple interventions? Like it is advocated sometimes that you should eat raw vegetables. But no, raw is not always healthy. Even when you're cooking tomatoes, the lycopene becomes much more available, and this is important for cancer and illness fighting them. In fact, in many plants, carrots, spinach, mushrooms, and others, you can increase the supply of the availability of carotenoids and ferulic acid to the body when they are cooked. There is a concept of stir frying and steaming versus boiling. Sometimes people say you should boil the vegetables, but no, when you're boiling it, many times you tend to lose out many of the water-soluble vitamins like vitamin C and B and even the folate when you do the boiling process. So stir frying is much better as compared to that. So these are minor interventions which need to be told. Is soaking the vegetables? A big no. Instead, chopping, crushing, blending them breaks down the cell walls of the substances and makes it easier for the body to digest. But what is more important is to pair foods well. What do we mean by that? Pairing foods to increase the nutritional absorption. That means that there's certain combination of foods which should be paired together. Like if you want to increase the absorption of iron, pair it with a little bit of vitamin C. A pinch of lime juice or something will aid in the absorption. So these are the little nitty gritty, these are the little tricks, I would say, which will go a far way in adding boost to every bite. And of course, storage and vegetables, if we do that, is we do see that there are lots of, I think what we are talking of is we're actually, what I'm trying to focus on is on the rural diversification and how the global targets and the natural policies, they need to be translated at the city level. And once at the city level targets and the policies, these will be the ones that will drive the sustainable projects at the district levels. So the city level projects and initiatives, they drive the policy changes not only locally but nationally also, and subsequently, I think the effect would be seen globally as well. These little interventions for a rural sector. Agroforestry is one major aspect which can be exploited, especially in some of our different states which have more of forest reserves in them. By agroforestry, I just mean a good blend of agriculture with forestry to enhance not only the productivity, the profitability, but also to arrive at environmental sustainability. The agroforestry practices, I've seen people cultivating medicinal plants and wild produce, wild beans, wild bananas, and wild tubers, which are generally not seen in the urban market. But in the rural sector, it's a big yes. And if you visit the rural markets, you will find that it is an important nutrient constituent of the things. Promoting agroforestry will also enhance forest economy, I believe. Picture is quite self-explanatory because it shows you how the rural folks, especially in this case, the tribal folks, are separating different types of gingers with different properties in here, ginger and turmeric and other things here. And we get some of the best source ginger from there as well. But we need to educate them further and see what has to be done in this. Other ways how we can not only aid in their nutrition, but also aid in their, what do I say, aid in their earning ability. Like Dr. Mehta Bamji was saying, that it is not only the nutrition, but they need some cash in their hand. And it is there that I find that apiculture and many such practices will help them to earn something and to consume also. Because honey is a very good modulator, immunomodulator as well, and a good source of nutrients and for immunoglobulin. Under the agroforestry as well, many of these tribal peoples, they are very well aware of what are the wild edible mushrooms which are available. Now, mushrooms are a very interesting group of plants which have very high protein content in them and very low fat content in them, and they should be exploited. And they have been exploited for natural ones, but also for mushroom cultivation. In fact, in the agroforestry sector, mushroom cultivation has come up in a very big way. Different types of mushrooms, different cultivation practices, exotic mushrooms and others have helped not only in the local nutritional needs, but also in earning some cash back. It's become a very good enterprise for the local people, and there are lots of such practices which are being undertaken in the rural sector. The fermentation technology is an age-old technology. As old as man, man has been fermenting stuff together for different types of beverages. But what is more important, and if there is availability of livestock and milk produce, then the milk and the cheese processing industry needs to be expanded. And this does take care of the surplus needs here, when they are there, but this is also provides a way of storing things for a longer period. Of course, with pickling and other things also is a main. Fermentation, pickling, and processing, these are surprisingly very good sources of probiotics. We have never looked at the sources of probiotics, but the microflora which is present in them goes a long way in improving the microflora content of the GI tract. And that is where I think this technology needs to be taken up more rigorously as compared to doing that. Another interesting thing, because I work in the area of silkworm mulberry propagation too, we have always seen mulberry being grown for sericulture industry. I came across some people in the northeast states and other where they grow mulberry not for the silk but for eating the worms, because the silkworms, the caterpillars, are highly nutritious in nature and they're taken up like delicacies. I was surprised to see this aspect of it, and I realized that why not? You could get surplus silk, you could get some nutrients, and you could get some green forage for the plants also. So it could be a multi-pronged action by cultivating one little plant species as well. And it could give you another. In fact, in China, they have survived one of the earliest famines by just eating the silkworms, which were naturally growing on the mulberry plants. So because they're very high in protein content, and people have survived for long periods, and they're very good nutritionally too. Which I think is very good for the other people, but yes, where water is available, where water is in plenty, whether it is fresh water or marine water, you could use this as a source for cultivation of fishes, shellfish, even plants, for nutrition and for livelihood. I'm taking nutrition and livelihood now together, but yes, it is important. And again, one very interesting example which I saw on my trip to Shillong was the people were fishing in the fields. And what were they doing? When I went closer and saw these were rice fields, and the water which is stagnant in the rice field, because rice is water loving plant, I saw that they were cultivating fishes here. I thought it was a very remarkable, innovative step of having dual cultivation. You could have pisciculture, you could fish for some protein here till the rice gets ready, and you can use it differently as well. Another industry another source of protein which Dr. Bamji also mentioned is the animal-based and the poultry-based thing here. And poultry rearing goes hand in hand with the secondary agriculture as well. And it's supplemented both at the younger stages and others, because the egg is supposed to have one of the best forms of protein. And another thing is this protein rarely gets infected, rarely I'm saying, but you cannot adulterate this protein. So this is a very good source, the egg protein. And later, of course, those who consume the non-vegetarian, the chick also, they can have the chicken also, which is very popular and very much in demand too. So this is something which can enhance their livelihood and enhance their nutritional requirements too. So what I've been trying to emphasize is the grassroots innovations. We learn from the economically weaker sectors as well only, how they supplement, how they innovate, and how they improve their own lifestyle. And then we can use that as an example and then spread it to other places. So we need to encourage all grassroots innovations, whether it is for cultivation or this, so that there is better bioaccessibility and bioavailability of nutrients. And you usually eat the pulses just like that, but when the moment they germinate the pulses and then eat, then the bioavailability of the nutrients in these pulses gets enhanced further. We are talking of enhancing bioavailability of different nutrients which are important for the human body and for immunity as well. And there are various factors which increase the bioavailability, and we need to pay a little more attention to them. Like cooking the legumes makes the minerals easily available. So instead of having digestive problems by eating the raw legumes, better is to cook them and then eat. Increasing vitamin C presence, as said, increases the absorption of iron, and vitamin D, which is prevalent, freely available also, that increases the absorption of calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium. Yes, of course, there are certain factors which decrease the bioavailability also, like the presence of oxalates, which bind to certain minerals, phytates, polyphenols, and others, but we need to see that. Another thing, I just on the right hand side, if you see of the slide, I've got in the case of the bioavailability of calcium from selected food sources. And this is only to give you a snapshot that the availability can range from anything from 5% to 50%. In case of spinach and others, the calcium which is available is only 5%, while in cauliflower, cabbage, green turnips, pak choy, broccoli, it is more than 50%. And milk, cheese, food products, it's only 30%. So we need to be these things, not only for human consumption, but how we can increase the bioavailability and bioaccessibility to the cattle as well. This is the example of how to increase the bioavailability in the fodder. I'm sure those of you have seen the there was I'm getting some very good background music, but that's not, I'm not contributing to that. But what I do want to indicate is that the source of, generally it is the grains, the germinated grains are given to the cattle in the hay and other things here together. But I came across this little intervention where instead of just merely germinating them, they germinated the grains for a longer period, say about a week, 10 days, and then rolled these germinated seedling pads. They become mats now. These are root mats and these are shoots here. And they were loaded into trucks. This is in South America. They use this extensively, not only to feed the grains to the cattle, but it becomes a source to provide them some green fodder also, which is especially important for the poultry, not poultry, the cattle industry, for the milking industry as well. So we learn from them, we can extend the information, and these little interventions help us. In fact, even if you look at it, rural medicine and rural ethnopharmacy, I think they have very good systems to increase the immune system. I will not dwell too much into the immunity here, but yes, you can increase, I'm sure the other speakers would also focus more on it, especially vitamin B, C, some berries and nuts, increase it. And especially in the COVID-19 pandemic time periods, there are different immune system boosters which are available, which can be obtained from nutrients as well, different zinc, iron, vitamin C, E. But more important than that, I would like to focus on the PUFAs also, which are polyunsaturated fatty acids and minerals like zinc and selenium. I think these are little underrated minerals, but they go a long way in acting as functional foods. And the PUFAs act on the immune system, especially on the macrophage function and on lymphocyte proliferation. I'm sure Dr. Namrata would be focusing on that as well. But what I do want to mention is the ethnomedicine, the ethnic groups, what plant-based medicines have. This is a big international project. The motive is to preserve the medicinally important plants of indigenous cultures, and you have the ethnomedicine project spans Peru, Belize, India, South India, and Australia as well, and where there is a documentation of the indigenous cultures and which culture uses which plants for what type of medicine. And this is a discipline of ethnomedicine. And for the economically weaker sections of the society, I think this could be a very effective way of. There's another thing which I do want to mention is, which is the underlying all this is, you can have no food, nothing produced if there isn't enough water available to you. And we must remember this is a fallout of climate change where we are living with water stress conditions. And at least a quarter of the world's population is living with extreme water stress. I'm sure are very common in metro cities like Delhi. In fact, this is a picture of Delhi. In Chennai, last year, we saw the water crisis and water tankers being sent to Chennai to address the water crisis. I think it is, we are not talking of agriculture now, we're talking of human sustainability. If you don't get enough drinking water, imagine what, if at least in the metro cities, you have some effort being done to provide some water which is available. What happens in the rural space? these kind of scenarios are not very uncommon. It's a very pathetic plight, and where groundwater is not available, where other source of drinking water is not available, can we think of water being diverted to agriculture? No. I think so. We must be aware of this kind of a major thing. In fact, 21 of the 37 are major aquifers. Water aquifers are getting severely water stressed. And with growing populations and increasing demands of the industry as well as agriculture, this crisis is only likely to worsen. And they say that the Third World War will occur for water. And keeping our fingers crossed, saying what we can do, I think this is another aspect we need to address simultaneously, because without water, you will have no nutrition available to feed your tummy. While yes, it is very good and interesting to see that we talk of climate smart agriculture and how we are integrating technologies to enhance agricultural produce, but I think the bottom line is to manage our earth's resources, land resources, our water resources, and our biodiversity resources. In fact, to integrate, manage the ecosystems in a sustainable way, which will lead us a long way out. You can never have environmental sustainability or social sustainability without any social responsibility, I would say. So it is only your social responsibility towards environmental sustainability which will lead to economic stability. And I think we must always keep this in mind and see that stability, which is impacted both by ecosystem and the environment, is what will impact our public health as well, whether we are in the rural sector or the urban sector. I would, in the end, I would say I would like to conclude by saying we must promote innovation from and for the rural India, because we can learn a lot from the rural people and we must innovate from them, learn from them. We need to promote these grassroots innovations and help them even in protecting the intellectual property rights, because a mind on the margin may not necessarily be a marginal mind. I would like to end by a very famous Archimedes, the great mathematician, physicist, engineer, inventor, astronomer. Give me a place to stand, I will move the world. Of course, he said that, also said that give me a lever and give me a position outside and I can move the earth. But I'm sure with modern developments in research and technology and keeping biodiversity in mind, we can take many of such decisions to this. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Khurana, for educating us about our diet and adding a color to it. It was indeed a very interesting and informative lecture. Thank you for letting us know about the ethnomedicine project and also alluding to the importance of water. I think all these are very important points. Now we'll move on to the next lecture, and I would like to introduce Professor Madhulika Agarwal. She is head of the Department of Botany at Banaras Hindu University, and she has made significant contributions in the field of air and soil pollution and global climatic change effects, with particular emphasis on the cause-effect relationship of plant-stress interaction. She is recipient of many awards, to name a few: UNESCO Rosta SCA Young Scientist Award, US Fulbright Scholarship, Bilateral Exchange Program of INSA and Royal Society London, P. Shield Memorial Lecture Award of the National Academy of Sciences. Dr. Agarwal, we are happy to have you with us. Please proceed with your presentation. Are you
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see your slides too.
Okay, full screen.
Yes. Yeah. If you can make it full screen, then we would.
All right. So a very good day to all of you. I'm very thankful to Dr. Manju Sharma, Dr. Chandrama Shah, Dr. Shali Parveen, and all other speakers are here to whom I could listen before my talk. so that I can think of, what I have to speak beyond what they have spoken. It's a great pleasure for me to be here in this webinar. I'm presenting this webinar as the chairperson of NASI Varanasi chapter because we are already doing some work under a project on role of wild and neglected plants in nutritional security of the underprivileged during pandemics. You will find a change in a title, and this has come because of the request of Dr. Saha, who just asked me that if there can be a little change in this title because the earlier speaker, Professor Khurana, would also be speaking on economically weaker section. So I have tried to change that. I hope there would not be much repetition. I would be speaking on these points: the need of nutritional security during pandemics, what are the challenges in India, and I will be also speaking basically on the case study from Mirzapur district, which we are doing, because lot more has been already said about many things from Dr. Khurana, and that is why, I thought she would be speaking it, so I have just cut it more shorter, especially with respect to the tribal population in Mirzapur and Sonbhadra district, the wild and neglected plants as a supplement, and of course, then conclusion and future recommendations. So this is a general slide. Whenever, a pandemic comes, it is in form of a global public health emergency. And as that pandemic or epidemics evolve, there is a need to expand public health activities, and the first step used to happen in terms of clinical management. So the clinical management goes on, but that's not the end. The most important thing which has come up during this pandemic is the optimization of resource utilization as well as the energy preparedness. So these 2 points have shown during this pandemics that the nations which were able to do it properly, they are showing good results. So in the energy preparedness, the individual as well as the community, they need to be resilient to any of these epidemics during its evolution. Now, how does this resilience come? It comes individually also, as a community also. In the individual and the community basis, there are many psychological countermeasures, there are many behavioral countermeasures, and these 2 countermeasures are basically, acted by the nutritional status of a individual and the nutritional status of the entire community. If there is an inadequate nutrition, you all know that there will be a decline in the physical activity as well as the mental health. So there is a very strong link between diet and immunity. Lot of things have been said, but I'm talking about in that that perspective, that immune system with balanced diet is very important for the activation of immune cells, for the signaling molecules which respond to any kind of stress, gene expression, and most importantly, that system is very important for our gut microbes to enhance our immunity. And the nutrient deficiencies which we talk about is basically in terms of proteins, calories, vitamins, and minerals. If there is a nutrient deficiency, there is a depressed immune function, and there is more increase in susceptibility to infection. So this webinar is especially very, very important aspect to show that, how different vegetables or fruits and other things, they can reduce the nutrient insufficiency in the body, and that is how, they can improve the nutrients in the body. It's already been said that malnutrition is the most common cause of immune deficiency worldwide. So, optimal nutrition is needed to mitigate the risk of morbidity associated with pandemics. It is not only that, during these kind of pandemics, there is one very important problem which happens because of the self-isolation and social distancing, which are very important. And during this particular process, there is few choices of food access and utilization. People are confined in their proximity, which change their lifestyle, their dietary habits, and these dietary habits affect their emotions in terms of more fear and the sadness for the resources, as well as, if they can catch up the disease. There is a change in eating pattern, irregular eating, of course. It's very, very common, especially with the urban people. And then, there is a higher caloric intake and increase in obesity, but it's more in the urban background. Physical activity pattern also goes down, which also directly affect the physical and the mental health. So there are various suggestions during this pandemics for individuals, and these things have been talked about. So I will not be talking much except that choose food rich in vitamins in A, C, E, B6 and B12. Apart from that, the micronutrients like zinc, selenium, iron, and to have this supplement, we need to have more citrus fruits, dark green leafy vegetables, nuts, and dairy products. I have not included the meat or fish over here, but if they are giving these vitamins, they are also part of this. So during the pandemics, there is a alteration in the immunity. And that is why the nutrients and probiotics, as Professor Khurana also said, they are linked with this, and especially they are linked with the enhancement of resistance to upper respiratory tract infection. You all know that nutritional status is also very crucial for optimal prognosis because it determines the clinical severity of that particular disease. In the childhood, that is why, the breastfeeding is suggested because it provides protection against infections and the respiratory diseases also. So optimization of a nutrient intake through well-balanced diet and of course use of good hygienic practices in food selection are suggested the effective measures for managing the continuous risk of viral infection during this pandemics also. The vitamins, minerals, and probiotics, they cannot treat this disease, but they can optimize immune response acting as an adjunct treatment. And that is why, all the time it is suggested to have a good nutrition so that one can fight against these viral infections. Of course, good hydration is needed. And for that also, there are a lot of suggestions to go on. This has been talked about just now. If we see, Asia is having the highest burden of the malnutrition in all form, either it is stunning or it is wasting or it is obesity as compared to other continents. Well, malnutrition in India is a worrisome fact. It comes in our newspapers, in our electronic media, and all that, and we know about that. So the next step is what are the ways to avert nutrient insufficiency in tribal area? I have, since I'm going to talk about a case-specific project, so that is why I have written it is in the tribal area. Well, strategy to avert malnutrition, it is suggested to be diet supplementation, fortification. Professor Khurana talked about fortification, and most importantly, all the speakers have talked about the dietary diversification. because through the dietary diversification, we get different kinds of minerals, proteins, calories, and all other things in a good combination, which helps in enhancing our immunity in due course. Well, as said already, that if you take the entire world, rice, wheat, and maize provide more than 50% of the world calories from the plants. There are more than 391,000 crops used for food by humans throughout history, but only 5,538 are used, and out of that only rice, wheat, and maize are the most dominant. As talked about the effect of global climate change, if these three species will adversely affected due to global climate change, then we need to know many new unknown species which can be an alternative to our staple foods. So that is also the need, because we are not just planning for this pandemic. We know that several such occasions will come when we need these kind of things. So it's a long-term strategy to go ahead with this. For this, the wild and neglected plants are one of the most suitable alternatives for combating the nutritional insecurity. According to FAO also, there are 924 species of plants having immense nutritional quality. They are kept under neglected and underutilized species. You know, they occupy a very important ecological niches. Why? Because they don't need very high input for their growth. They withstand stress condition. Even in the climate change stress, in like drought, or less fertilizer available, their yield is not affected to that extent as it is for wheat, rice, and maize. Diversifying food production system. As I said earlier, you know that we are just relying on only 3 of the major crops. So we can diversify in that. Ensure food security. Stabilizing ecosystem. This is one of the very important things which Dr. Khurana also emphasized, that now we have to think about the entire ecosystem and its ecosystem services, so that longer term gain, longer term resilience can be maintained. Creating new market, that's something good, like livelihood of those people. Enhancing biodiversity. When we start doing them, we will conserve them and we will enhance the production, increasing incomes, and of course the most importantly, most of them are highly nutritious, so we will improve the nutrition. So in fact, there is a need of future smart food, and FAO has started an initiative for future smart food, and it has identified 39 nutritious and climate resilient crops from South and Southeast Asia. So this is one of the very important aspects, and you see that there are cereals and cereals. Some of these names have already been talked about by the earlier speaker. Some of the roots and the tuber crops are there. The different kind of pulses are given over here, which are very good source of protein and amino acids. Then fruits and vegetables are there, which are very good in providing vitamins, very good in providing fiber and all other micronutrients, and even nuts, seeds, and spices. So these are the ones which have been started to be conserved through the FAO initiative of Future Smart Food. Now I am coming to the project which we are doing right now, improving the health, well-being, and livelihood of tribal women in Mirzapur district of Uttar Pradesh. In fact, there is Sonbhadra district also, which I have removed from here. And this project we are working under the science technology intervention in various activities for scheduled tribes under NASI ST subplan. We are very thankful to NASI for providing this project, and that is how, you know, I'm involved in the field with these kind of work, which we will also share with you, with these two objectives, in which identification, popularization, and field gene bank creation of nutrient-rich wild edibles for improving the health and the well-being of tribal women, and also for their value-added projects. And for this, we have done extensive field surveys in the Rajgarh block of Mirzapur, where we talk to the farmers, the lady farmers directly, and collect the information from them, and also let them know, you know, what are the important things they are growing there, they are not using, and how those things are very nutritious to them. Now, these are the plants of some leafy vegetables from the study area. You will see this is tickweed, Icosandra. This is very, very common. Fenugreek, methi. Then this is what if you see, it's a purple color, which is the cabbage leaf mustard. This is very well growing in that area during winter season. And then this is Thallium fruticosum, which is the water leaf. This is the moringa, of course. For moringa, sajan, now it has become a very important food supplement because of its various rich in vitamins and fibers and all other things. And then digera, lesua, this is also being, the leaves are being eaten there. Then this is the Colocasia gigantea. This leaf they use for making vegetables. Over there, they put something inside, roll the whole leaf, and then, you know, fry the leaf, and that is how they eat it. And this is Basela alba. This is Indian spinach. You know, this is having high iron content and more nutritious. I'll show you later that what is the nutrient content of these leaves. So this is the Indian spinach. Then our curry patta. This curry patta is very common in that area also. Amaranthus viridis, for which Dr. Khurana talked about. This is a pseudo cereal. Also, it is used in that form. And then this is nalta jute, which they cook this for the nutrients. And then this is Ipomia aquatica or kalmi saag. They also, so you see, these are different leafy vegetables which are used in that areas. Of course, you know, there were very few old people who were using most of them, while, you know, the new generation was not that much interested in eating that. But we also conduct a workshop over there, and we show them the nutrient content and ask them to grow it more in their kitchen garden, or, you know, in the land, whatever they have in access. These are the diversity of underutilized and neglected fruit crops over there. You know, this falsa. This is very, very common in that Mirzapur area. Of course, jackfruit. This picture is already shown by Dr. Khurana. That is Karoda. This amla is also very, very common in that area. Bale. Now this is so fibrous. This is so good for the gut microorganism, and especially in the summer they used to drink it. Bale ka sharbat. Then of course Zarifa, Anona. Then kadam. You know, they eat this kadam fruit. Hardly we eat kadam fruit in the urban areas, but they eat it. We have also tried to eat it. Of course, Tamarind indica is there, and also the ground cherry or Physalis angulata. Then these are the tuber crops which are common there. Yam. Then Ipomia batatas. This is this sweet potato. You know, they use it. You see this color over here. It's common. The sweet potato of white color is not that common. This is something very common in that area. Then of course elephant foot yam there. Then these colocasia, and they grow it, and they use it. And of course, these are also present when we have visited some of the sites which are towards the forested areas or towards the areas where these tribals don't go that frequently. And then Colocasia esculenta, taro oxalis. This is also common in that area. The satavari, they have started growing satavari because through our projects and earlier projects by a colleague from Institute of Environment and Sustainable Development, PC Abhilash. He is working in that area for last 5-10 years, and he is collecting the entire biodiversity information in that area. So this has been started cultivating in that area. And then of course wild turnip. This winged bean, this is very common. They grow in their field also, this winged bean, and all the leaf, the flower, the fruit of this winged bean, they eat a lot. Even the seeds also, they make it like our rajma or chola. So and the leaves have also high protein content, so they use it as a fodder. So this is a very important plant of that area and very, very common in that area. And then they also know it very well that it is highly nutritious in nature. These are many culinary items prepared from the winged bean. This, of course, not we have collected from their area, but also from other informations other information available on this area. In our project, we have a co-principal investigator from Home Science Department. So she also tries to prepare different culinary items from the winged bean, and we have shown them that how to make it so that the protein content will not be lost, because if they deep fry it like this, then the things are lost. This is the nutrient profile of the winged bean. Of course, the entire, all these things are not from the USDA, but this is available from on their sites also. You see the immature seed, mature seed, leaves. Every portion of this winged bean are having the nutrients. Of course, the mature seeds have higher calcium, iron, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, and even zinc. Similarly, the leaves have also higher calcium. Energy is also there in the mature seeds. It's quite energetic in that sense. Then this is sword bean. Another very important proteinaceous plant in that area is the sword bean. That also grow luxuriantly, widely also in that area. And then this is the evidence. We are also trying to measure the nutrition content in that. So during that we are trying to measure the vitamins, and this we send we outsource for some of them which we cannot do in BHU. So still we are waiting some of the results, but those results which are available. So if you see, vitamin C is also there, vitamin A is there, calcium is also there in this. Similarly, this is one of the very common wild cucumber in that area, and which they use to make deep fry also. They dry it also like that, and this has also different kind of minerals, especially micronutrients. Even iron is there, zinc is there, and the vitamin C is also there in this wild cucumber. Sunham. This is one of the very common culinary item in those houses. That is Crotalaria gensea, and it grows very widely in that area. And they with the mature pod actually, they make different kind of recipes. And this has also high vitamin C, if you see, and all other minerals, even very, very small amount of zinc. Then Physalis angulata. These are the fruits of Physalis angulata, very widely available in that area. And you see vitamins, riboflavin, niacin, phosphorus, calcium, and iron. They are present in sufficient amount in this area. So if these people use this for themselves, they grow more, because some of them are just growing widely. So we educate them, we make them aware that what are the nutritional quality. They don't know much about the nutritional quality. They are more concerned with the taste of that item or the way it is being presented. So when we talk to them that you give it to the lactating mother or you give it to the your child, then they do it, and then let us know in our next visit that how they are following. This is of course amaranthus, and this has been talked about earlier also. It has stopped hair loss and graying, excellent. This is gluten-free diet, which is now becoming very important for those who are gluten sensitive. Then electrolyte imbalance also it reduces, improves eyesight, improves digestion, and of course, reduces the bad cholesterol. And lot more things are there, and these are the content in 100 gram. The vitamin B6 is also present here, then folate and vitamin A and the minerals. Pearl millet, this has been talked about by Dr. Khurana, and I'm sure, but this is very common in that area. They grow it also, and the leaves they use for as a forage plant. So this is very common in that area. Not all kinds of pearl millet, and so they are also very rich in vitamins and the minerals. Now, this I was talking to you. Earlier, I showed you Basela alba, and this is another variety of that which is present also there, is Basela rubra. Now, in Basela rubra, you see all the vitamin B16, folate, vitamin A, vitamin C, and all kind of minerals are present. Even selenium is present at lower levels, which is also being suggested during the to strengthen the immune system in a very low quantity. Amaranthus, these are the details of the amaranthus vitamins, thiamine, flavonoid, vitamin B6. So these are the things which we are working with the wild and neglected plants of that particular area, try to show that what are the labels of these in them and how they can enhance the immunity during these kind of things, not only for the epidemics or pandemics, but also for their well-beings. We have a doctor, a gynecologist in our team also, who also let them know that how the iron will do this for the blood. You are, most of them are anemic, so how you will be improved for that. So with these kind of things, now I would like to conclude. I'm coming to the conclusion part. So what I have talked about is basically individual and the community level. So it's a multi-level framework to support nutrition and food security. We are talking more about our individual level so that we can enhance our own immunity. Now, accessibility of food is one of the most important problem in community level, and hence we need to strengthen this. And most importantly, the equity is required for the vulnerable groups. These vulnerable groups are the economically weaker section, of course, the tribal area, which are already malnourished. At the national level, we are already suggesting for healthy food basket. Various food assistance programs are going on, even for food marketing, etc. We are talking about, and food agriculture. And of course, the most important agenda is the national agenda is the food security.
Dr.
Along,
Agarwal,
yeah.
Dr. Agarwal, please wind up your talk kindly.
Okay, okay. So I think this is just on 18th of August, we have celebrated, we went to these sites 18th, 19th and 20th, and we distributed some iron supplement and some vitamin supplements, protein supplements them, and most importantly we have given them the seeds of the of different vegetables which are very nutritious, so they will grow in their nursery, kitchen nursery, whatever you are saying that this should be done. What I am trying to show that we are already doing it with them in this, and we will be very happy to extend it also with the support of NASI and of course INSA also. So the last is the conclusion that wild crop plants are nutritionally rich and therefore useful for reducing the nutrient inefficiency, and through the dietary diversification, large scale exploitation of such species are essential, not only for tribal people, but also for an alternative to the urban people also. Cultivation of resistant, nutritionally rich and low resource intensive wild crop. This is very important. This has been emphasized all the time because water has become scarce, fertilizers are not available in that area. So environmental sustainability can also be maintained. And such resilient varieties can be used for future breeding program and thereby preparing next generation climate smart crops. So I will end with that domestication of undomesticated, wild and neglected crops should be attempted to avoid the future pandemics, especially for underprivileged population. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Professor Agarwal, for giving this illuminating talk about the importance of underutilized and neglected plants, fruits, etc. So, so that we find solution for underprivileged people. So the next talk is by Professor Akhilesh Tyagi, Professor, University of Delhi South Campus. His area of specialization is plant genomics and biotechnology. Importantly, Professor Tyagi led the first successful Indian initiatives on genome-wide sequencing in rice, tomato, and desi chickpea. He is a fellow of the Indian Academy of Sciences, Indian National Science Academy, National Academy of Sciences of India, and several other prestigious scientific organizations. He was also president of NASI. Professor Tyagi, please give your presentation.
Thank you, Chandrima. Are you able to hear me? And
Yes,
right?
clear and see your slides. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. As I mentioned to you, I do not work in this area, but in the last 6 months or so during the COVID period, I have been trying to organize my thoughts, and some of these are presented here. I must be excused by previous speakers if there is some overlap with them, and also by the audience for some repeatability. But important thing to see is that out of the 17 sustainable developmental goals of the United Nations, there are 2 at least, that is zero hunger and good health and well-being, which directly connect to the theme of the deliberations today. And we know that this period of pandemic is going to make it difficult to achieve the targets as are expected when these goals were formulated. So question is that in this situation, when everyone is getting affected but at the level of individual or at the level of the whole world, what we could do to maintain our nutritional status. And in this case, we can take up the individual. So individuals should be able to eat a variety of food within each food category. we should not normally restrict to one type of food. We should try to diversify because different foods contribute to different nutritional components of our diet. We should try to eat more fruits and more vegetables. Of course, in India, there a lot of vegetables are taken, but fruit is less. Also, we should try to consume a diet of whole grain, nuts, and healthy foods. That is, unsaturated fatty acids should be taken, saturated one should be avoided. And also, we should choose the food which is rich in vitamins, zinc, and iron. As you might be knowing that many times the patients of COVID are being given capsules which have iron or which have vitamin C. This is a regular prescription which is being given by doctors besides several other medicines. Now, in addition to that, we have some uh, breakdown at the community level, and therefore we see the problems like hoarding or panic buy. So both kinds of people should avoid these situations because we should believe in our system that system will be able to provide regular supply of the food. So there is no need of panic buy, and also hoarding should be avoided. Also, we should identify those people who are at the risk of malnutrition. Earlier, two speakers have been able to identify some of these people, but now, even in the common cities and the villages, you will find that malnutrition is becoming an issue. Also, create such structures and reliable support systems to ensure the availability, access, and affordability of essential food commodity. Because if food is there but we can't access it or we can't afford it, then naturally it becomes a problem in these situations, and it becomes more severe, particularly in the pandemic situations. Also, we have to define at community level, finance, and distribute a food basket of healthy, least cost diet for local produce. So you might have seen that how different people have been helping the migratory population of India in this pandemic. And given at the bottom is a food kit which has got 17 essential items and has been provided by Kerala government from the local produce. So idea is that we should look in the local produce such kind of nutritional food which could be provided to people who are uh, not having sufficient food, and it should be provided as a kit to sustain the nutritional requirements of the people in a community. Now, of course, nation also has the responsibility as in such a situation towards food, and this is that one should be able to mobilize the food provisions and purchases. You might have heard that how Indian government has taken out the stocks and provided to the people through PDS system and is trying to sustain the purchase of this food. Also, we need to support agriculture and relevant industry. If people don't do the practice of agriculture, then food levels will naturally go down. And this availability of this food is important, so market prices should be kept in control. That is nation's responsibility. And networking of the local community with private sector and also with international agencies is going to ensure the supply chain, which is also a necessity in this situation. And of course, the food stocks should be maintained at high level, and transparency should be there in all activities. Well-informed decisions should be taken, and this will build the trust, support, and compliance, because these things tend to suffer a bit in a greedy situation which develops during the pandemic situations. Now, of course, they globally also there are responsibilities of international organizations and governments, and this is that we ensure the global food trade and avoid trade restrictions so that those countries which do not have sufficient food could also have access to the food, participate in global efforts to help avoid hunger and malnutrition, reduce import tariffs and other restrictions on food communities so that these are available at reasonable price, and most importantly they should continue to support research and capacity building, because what we will learn now would be used in future and also in the coming year. So as people say, this is not the last pandemic which human race is going to face, and therefore making the humanity prepared for such kind of natural and onslaughts should be a task, and research for that and capacity building should be supported. Now, as we know that nutrition plays a very critical role in the host immunity, including in the virus host immunity, and micronutrients have been identified important components. These vitamins like A, D, C, E, B6, B12, and also components like folate, iron, and zinc, and magnesium and selenium also, they have been found to be helpful in providing the advantage in terms of physical, biochemical, respiratory barriers. They have been also said to affect the innate immunity of the cells, their differentiation, proliferation, functioning, and movement. Also, interferon regulations are affected by that, which controls antimicrobial activity. And this also helps the oxidative burst and antioxidants, thus bringing a balance between the inflammatory responses and also the counter-regulatory responses. In addition to innate immunity, this also affects adaptive immunity, and therefore antigen presenting cell functions are affected. T cell differentiation, proliferation, and functions are affected. Humoral immunity is affected by production of antibody and its development, and cell immunity is also affected. So, in essence, what these micronutrients seems to be doing is to activate the immune effectors and also alleviate the immune suppression. Now, in this direction, I was looking at the government sites, and I found that how the Food Safety and Standard Authority of India has been popularizing the nutritional food. This is to show that at present we have the consumer use adequately the cereals. They use liberally the vegetables and the fruits. They eat moderately the oils and also the meat, and of course, rarely they eat some of these candies and also sugar-rich food and like that. So this is a normal pyramid for the food, but for getting those components or particularly micronutrients, which will be important in this situation of COVID to improve immunity, the FSI, as I said, Food Safety and Standard Authority of India, has been popularizing the food for iron-rich food, and these iron-rich foods are lentils, greeny leaf vegetables, nuts and raisins, soybean, fortified rice, and also fortified wheat flour are also available. So they can help in providing the iron requirements. At the same time, for vitamin B6, it has been proposed that masoor dal, whole moong, garlic, ginger, brown rice, and methi seeds can be utilized in the food. Also, for vitamin B9, one can use soybean, rajma, beetroot, capsicum, lentils, and fresh peas. In addition to this, to take different kind of components of the vitamin B, one can try walnut, ragi, arhar, groundnut, banana, and fortified wheat flour. Also, vitamin C is important, and therefore one can include in the diet amla, oranges, papaya, capsicum, guava, and lemon. And of course, also the calcium, which can be provided by falsa, soybean, cluster bean, horse gram, amaranth leaves, and also the mustard leaves. So this is what FSI has been propagating and trying to reach the people, that they should bring in more and more of these components in their diet so that micronutrient balance is maintained, and this helps the immune system of our body. In addition to that, both the earlier speakers have emphasized the use of small millets and millets, particularly the bajra and the jowar. And these small millets have been found to be providing various components of our nutrition, although their production in the country at present is very limited, which need to be improved. But what is important, that they provide food not only for the adults but also for the toddlers, and also they can be fermented. And therefore, this kind of food, if it is utilized wherever it is available, will provide a better nutrition. Also, it has been mentioned that some of the underutilized crops are quite prevalent in some area of India, and those local people can make use of pseudo cereals like grain amaranth, buckwheat, chinopedium, minor cereals like job steer, food legumes like adzuki bean, faba bean, winged bean, rice bean, and we saw nice pictures of these. And also the oil seeds like perilla and paradise tree and moringa oleifera was mentioned in detail, which is wonderful plant. In addition to that, we can have some variation in the vegetables. These are like kalingada, concorda, and also the spine gourd. So there are lesser used foods, and also there are foods which are available in some low amount, but they can be improved for the purpose of nutrition. Now coming to some of our work, we worked, of course, in, as you mentioned so nicely, on the 3 genomes of rice, tomato, and chickpea. And the purpose was, as you see, to provide a balanced diet in terms of carbohydrates from rice, and also proteins from chickpea, and also the antioxidants and some of the vitamins through the vegetables like tomato. So that's why these were targeted. But the information from these genomes and also from several other genomes has been utilized to improve the crops for micronutrients and also for protein. These will together provide a nutrition which is balanced and better, and therefore these varieties need to be propagated. So Harvest Plus is an international program which has developed a framework for micronutrient enhancement. And this starts with targeting the micronutrient burden of the population, and then set the nutritional targets, how much we want to increase after all by improving the crops. And in this, there are 2 parallels. One is the gene discovery and genetics, which leads to the transgenics. On the other hand, we have screening of genetic variability and combining it with genetic markers, which leads to molecular breeding. Once they are brought together, we can go for diversification, do pre-breeding or breeding, and then fast track. It also needs to be. After breeding, we go for early development of the variety. At that point, we can look for bioavailability retention. We go for advanced development, and we can see composition characterization. We can go for performance, the gene and environment testing, and we can see the human efficacy subsidies. We can go for variety release, and we can check for acceptability of both producer and consumer. We go for dissemination of the product, and we have to study market and product development, and then we look at the consumption of an improved variety and see the demand for this particular variety. So in this framework, people are working, several labs in India are working to improve the nutritional status of our common crops, because as it has been said that 50% calorie are provided by only 3 crops. So if we can deliver the nutrition through these 3 crops, then we will be able to deliver the nutrition to the masses of the people, rather only to the small populations which depend on limited resources of any species. Now, first I will take the protein, which are building blocks of the cell. The protein deficiency leads to stunted growth, weakened resistance to infection, and impaired intellectual development. Human body needs about 60 grams of protein per day, which comes from pulses and the cereals which we eat regularly. Now, ICR Institute at Almora has developed a maize hybrid in which the earlier genotypes have been utilized, and into this a gene called as OPEC2, which is essentially a regulator of the nutrition related genes, has been introduced. and you can see that biological value of the protein has been improved from 40% to 80%. It is almost reaching the level that is present in the casein, which is a milk protein. Then they have gone further to improve it for lysine and tryptophan, and also have transferred the gene for production of beta carotene, which is a precursor of vitamin A. And therefore, this particular hybrid QPM9 has been released, whose conversion ratio is higher than the normal maize, as has been tested in monogastric animals like poultry, which also consume a lot of maize, which is being produced in India and in turn provides nutrition to those who eat the chicken meat. In addition to that, NIPGR, we had worked on chickpea genome. And in this case, you will see that we were able to identify a gene for ABC transporter. This transports the glutathione conjugates, and you see how this gene has been used to breed a better variety. There is here a parent, a small seed and high seed number. There is another parent which has large seed number but large seed size but low seed number. These have been crossed and a improved desi variety has been produced, which has large seed size and high seed number. Overall increase in yield is 20%, productivity increase is 13%, and there is a 15% increase in protein content. This variety has been approved at the first stage for release in some of the states. So you can see that legumes are also not the limit. Even they can be improved for protein content, and this increased protein content could be provided to the people. Similarly, at an IPGR, Dr. Ashish Datta and also the present Dr. Shubhra Chakravarti have worked on a gene from amaranth, and this seed protein gene has been introduced into potato, and it was found that there is a 60% increase in total protein content. By the way, this protein has a very balanced amino acid composition, and therefore is being considered to be of great value as far as nutrition is concerned. In addition to that, there is effort to breed varieties which are high in zinc in case of rice. The baseline which was kept was 16.8 ppm, but about 7 to 8 or 5 to 8 ppm more is being provided by these varieties. They have been released by IRI and also by ICAR Rice Research Institute at Hyderabad. Similarly, wheat varieties have been released with increased zinc content by CIMET and also by Indian institutes and also by Punjab Agriculture University. In addition to that, pearl millet has been bred for high content of iron by ICRISAT, and both high content of iron and zinc has been reported by IRI as well as by other workers from China. So these kind of varieties with high zinc and high iron are available, and these need to be put into the food chain so that ultimately people get, or most of the people could get these components directly from their food. Now, to see the bioavailability of these products, work has been done at NIN, where from Dr. Bamji comes, and here it has been shown in case of the DRR Dhan 45, which is high for iron and for zinc, and here you see that how the dialysable zinc availability has been affected by almost 50% more than the normal variety IR4, and also the uptake of zinc has been found to be more in case of the test done by CACO2 cells in this case. Also, in case of wheat, 20 biofortified varieties have been checked with high iron, about 40 ppm more. Their bioavailability was checked, and here you see these two varieties. They seem to provide about 20% more of the iron in terms of bioavailability. Similarly, the biofortified maize has been checked for bioavailability of the vitamin A, and it has been found that 100 gram of it could provide a sufficient amount for the 70% amount of the requirement of vitamin A in this particular case. Also, as you see, that at our Agriculture University at Raipur, several of the rice varieties have been released which have high zinc and also high protein, 9.5% grain protein and 20 ppm zinc level. So this variety, as you see here, Chhattisgarh zinc rice and also zinco rice, these are available in the market already and are helping the nutritional status of the population which is consuming them. The ICR, through its consortia program, is working on improving this nutritional value of more and more varieties belonging to different region and also to different crops. So, for example, rice for zinc and protein, wheat for iron, zinc, protein, and low phytate, which is an anti-nutrient, and low gluten also. As you see here, maize for protein, iron, zinc, beta-carotene, phytate, sorghum for iron, zinc, pearl millet for iron, zinc, and also small millets. And bioavailability studies are being done at NIN for these particular crops as they are getting released in this consortium. Now, I should also tell that long back, now almost 20 years back, golden rice has been produced, which has high carotene value. And this carotene gets converted into vitamin A, and it is considered that it will help alleviate the blinding of large number of the children beside providing the biofortification. This kind of gene has been introgressed into Indian varieties like Swarna, and it is looking forward for its release in a regulatory process so that this could become available for the people and they can be helped with their nutritional status vis-a-vis that of the vitamin A. Now, also in case of tomato, IIHR at Bangalore has been able to develop the varieties by using the genomic information which are resistant to virus, bacteria, uh, and at the same time have vitamin C, as you see here, up to 18 milligram per 100 gram, and also lycopene, as you see here, up to 4 milligram per 100 gram. But in the tomato puree, this could further be improved, like vitamin C could reach up to 26 milligram per 100 gram, and also in lycopene level could reach almost fourfold than the raw tomato which people are able to use. So that way, the raw as well as the processed products of tomato could provide the antioxidant and also the requirements of the vitamin C. Now, when these varieties are there and there is effort to improve them further, there are some challenges which we have to overcome. And these challenges, for example, for developer, it is important that yield is not affected negatively when high nutrients are being produced. Also, various kind of soils have impact on the micronutrients in the product, and this needs to be taken care of. There are also anti-nutrients, like in lethyrus, for example. Also in tomato, there is folate and so on and so forth, or phytate in case of rice and wheat, which need to be avoided. So developer has these kind of challenges. Farmer has a problem because he does not get a special price for this kind of activity. If he produces nutritive rice or wheat, so how this kind of food could be given better return to the farmer is important, and also we need to spread the awareness about these varieties to the farmer, which could be done by Krishi Vikas Kendras. They are busy. Also, there is a challenge for target for consumer, because it is important that healthy food, as we are saying in terms of these varieties, is given promotion. There are some special schemes like PDS, so it could be distributed to them, but we are distributing only few crops through PDS, whereas for midday meal, we could provide, of course, other kinds of products also based on the nutrient values. Dr. Manju Sharma mentioned about chickies and biscuits, nutritive ones which have been produced. And also there are other kind of programs like ICDS, like Integrated Child Development Services. So these are the programs which should incorporate more and more of the nutritious food for the people and thereby supporting their requirements. Of course, in the end, I would like to again use some of the facile material for communicating what government is thinking and what seems to be right in the situation of pandemic. The first is be vocal for local. And this is being taken in the context that community dependent food planning should be done. And therefore, locally grown food should be given preference in the lifestyle, although it should be diversified and it improves. At the same time, I would like to warn that although I have said of so much, know that how micronutrients could influence the nutrition, but remember that there is no scientific evidence that any can prevent or cure COVID. It can improve our health, it can improve our immunity, which can fight the COVID-19 or any pandemic for that matter, but there is no direct control of, say, multiplication of the virus and so on and so forth. So if that kind of situation is there, please do try to take a balanced view on this, well-informed view, or if possible, for this use. With this, Madam President INSA, I would like to address you saying thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I have tried to come to your expectation of the audience, but it is largely based on my readings in this period and some of the information which have been provided by Dr. Harishankar Gupta, former director of IRI, Sitapati Goleti, director of Indian Institute of Rice Research, Dr. Sadasiva from IIHR, Joy K. Roy from NABI, and supports from Department of Biotechnology and ICAR. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Tyagi, for telling us how nutritional value is being improved for various crops, and also showing us the challenges that are there in trying to enhance these micronutrients. And it is a very, very informative talk in an area that many of us may not have been aware of. Thank you very much. And now we go to the last presentation of this morning. And it will be made by Dr. Namrata Singh, who's dietitian at the Department of Gastroenterology and Human Nutrition Unit at All India Institute of Medical Sciences. She is involved in various departmental and interdepartmental research projects and has been the member of the Research and Development Board of Indian Dietetic Association, and she is an active member of the NSI and IDA and other organizations and societies. Dr. Namrata Singh, please.
Thank you, ma'am, for the very gracious introduction.
We can't hear you. Please unmute. Please unmute. You are muted. Dr. Singh, your mic is muted, so you go to below where that stop video and.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Now we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for that gracious introduction. And I think my slides are not working, so Mr. Karthikeyan will have to share the slides. My slides have been.
Karthik?
Okay, ma'am. I'm sharing the slides now.
Yeah, okay.
Till the time he's just starting these slides, I would like to say that the job of the last speaker becomes easy because half my talk has been covered by the previous speakers. So
Yes.
I'll only take 10 minutes and I'll sort of try to convey the key points of my talk. And so if my slides can be shared, I can start, Mr. Karthikeyan.
Yeah, Karthik is trying to share your slides. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have. Yes.
So, what
so you'll
topic?
have to say next slide. You'll have to say next slide, okay?
Okay, sir, ma'am. So, what I am going to cover in my slides today is that what is the holistic approach that one would take to prevent the infection coming to a person, or if a person has a mild infection and is at home, then how he can be taken care of. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next. These are animations, yes. Dr. Bamji has very well covered that India is already struggling with its 1.3 billion population, and we have the triple burden of undernutrition, overnutrition, and the micronutrient deficiencies. And next slide. Here we have Corona knocking at India's door. So it's a very dismal type of a situation. Next slide. So, have you ever thought that why do some people develop a very serious COVID infection, whereas some just are just able to, they don't even have symptoms and they present a very mild type of a disease. So, what the literature says is that some of the risk factors which make this disease more severe and make it mortal are old age, diabetes, obesity, hypertension, coronary heart disease, and immunocompromised states. So basically, we have to see that we should be away from these things to stay away from the virus. Next slide. So now there is a lot of debate that is going on, that is the immunity low and that is why the individual is susceptible to the COVID-19 infection, or are there some dietary factors which play an important role to increase the immunity and resist some infections? So a lot of debate, and the least understood issues are these. But I will try to cover some of the dietary issues in this sort of a situation. Next slide. So, life in the new normal, we are staying at home, we have to work from home. We would be having this presentation sitting in the auditorium. I would have been seeing all my audience, but here it's a different situation. And then social distancing, new family dynamics, unable to meet near and dear ones, and the fear of COVID. And what the literature shows is that increased consumption of poor quality food and decrease in physical activity results in weight gain, and this increases the individual's predisposition to type 2 diabetes and more so to COVID-19 then. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. The latest buzzword these days is immunity, immunity enhancers, how we can build up our immunity. Next slide. So, what I would like to stress here is that immunity is not the absence of disease, but it is the response to a disease. Next slide. And this immunity is, we can get this immunity by 3-4 things. If we are able to do, we can build our immunity, but that takes time. It is not that in one day we pop in some pills or we eat something in excess and we develop the immunity. Food is very important part in our diet to keep us healthy, and if we are able to if we are able to take a nutritious diet, and if we are able to maintain our nutritional status, definitely we'll do better, first by not contracting the infection, and secondly, if we have it also, it will be a milder form. Next slide. Next slide. So, in diet, many speakers have spoken about the balanced diet. I'll just talk something a little more about that balanced diet. So, balanced diet which provides all nutrients in the amounts and proportions required according to one's age, gender, and activity, and this is known as the balanced diet. Next slide. The NIN ICMR has done a lot of research, and then they have come up with this concept of a food plate. So if a person has to consume 2000 kilocalories diet, how much would the whole day's plate look like? So if we see, if we go from the 12 o'clock position of this clock and we move towards the 9 o'clock position, fruits and vegetables, they make up 50% of our plate. So they have to be the maximum. Then we have the cereals and millets. Then we have the protein foods like the dals, milk, curd. And the least things that we should be consuming in our diet is the fats and oils, sugars, salt, and latest studies are showing that nuts and seeds are also beneficial for our health. Next slide. So we have the energy giving foods, which are the carbohydrates and the fat, the bodybuilding foods, the proteins, the protective foods, which are vitamins and minerals. Next slide. Uh, One of the speakers has very beautifully explained this slide, but I would emphasize here that to build up the immune system, we need some micronutrients which will help in building the immunity. And from where do these micronutrients come? Next slide. Next slide, please. So we have many micronutrients, vitamin A, C, and they have been covered in the previous lectures. Vitamin D, selenium, B6, E, iron, zinc. Next slide. They're all helpful in building our immunity. And the sources of these micronutrients are also given. And Dr. Tyagi had very well shown us some slides in which he showed us the foods rich in micronutrients. Next slide. Next slide. So there are all the micronutrients and their food value, the foods they are rich in. Next slide. Next slide. So can we just take these micronutrients in terms of fruits and vegetables and neglect the other food items? No, everything has to be taken in a balance. Now, Ayurveda and Ministry of Ayush has propagated measures such as spices, turmeric, cumin seeds, coriander, garlic, and the regular consumption of herbal tea concoction and golden milk with haldi, which is supposed to be good in these times of COVID-19. Next slide. But I would like to say here that there are no recommendations for their consumption. Hence, their effective and judicious use is mandatory to get the maximum benefit. Next slide. Now, here we have in the newspapers which said that beware of too much home treatment. And it's mentioned that too much of turmeric, methi, vitamin D, and doctors fight new emergencies driven by COVID fear. And that is why that for these spices and condiments also, we have to take them in moderation. Next slide. So if I have to say the key recommendations of nutrition, some other speaker had also covered it very beautifully, but I'll just revise them once again. Healthy balanced diet, which should have adequate amount of proteins. We should choose raw vegetables and fruits and avoid foods which are high in sugar, salt, or fat. Increase the use of probiotics such as curds and fermented foods. Choose healthy oils which are rich in monounsaturated fatty acids and polyunsaturated fatty acids. But choose good oils, but that too the amount has to be in moderation. It has not to be in excess. Then the adequate energy intake has to be taken to maintain the ideal body weight. We should not get over nutrition or undernutrition. And water is also very important in times when there is fever or gastrointestinal upset. Next slide. So those were the things that we had to take. What we have to avoid: saturated fats, too much of salt, sugar, processed foods, and please do not try some fancy diets like ketogenic diets, intermittent fasting, religious fastings during these COVID times. It's better to stay with a normal, healthy, balanced diet. Next slide. Whenever we are in stress, fear, anger, and then this time our immunity goes low because the sympathetic nervous system stimulates the endocrine hormones to be secreted, and one of the endocrine hormone, which is the cortisol, that is detrimental to our body and it suppresses our immunity. And therefore, along with the diet, we should try to keep calm. We should avoid psychological stress. Next slide. And there is some talk about mindfulness and immunity, that whatever we think directly impacts our immune system. So please, stress, negative thinking, they negatively impact the immune system, and therefore things like yoga, meditation will help us building our immunity. Next slide. Now I've spoken about the diet, the stress. Very important part of maintaining immunity is sleep. Sleep deprivation reduces our immunity by 60 to 70%. Sleep is a natural drug for immunity. And during the lockdown, we have seen that how people are following a very disturbed type of a lifestyle by sleeping very late, getting up very late because children are not going to school, they're working from home. So all this disturbed sleep pattern is influencing the regulatory hormones which regulate the appetite, and there is faulty eating and sleeping in the daytime, sleeping less at night. All this is also hampering the immunity. Next slide. And last part, that means there are 4 pillars to our holistic approach. There is the diet, there is stress management, there's sleep, and there's exercise. So exercise causes circulation and live, and this improves the movement of the oxygen and nutrients and immune cells. Sedentary lifestyles can be very dangerous, so focus on being active. And because we know we cannot go out in the lockdown, it was difficult, so we can target 10,000 steps in the house only, and we have to do simple exercises. Do not over exercise or under exercise. Next slide. And again, there are many studies on yoga and vipassana and pranayam which have shown that actually the inflammatory markers are coming down during all these techniques. So we should follow some yoga, meditation, as well as that do simple exercises with buckets, dumbbells, water bottles, weightlifting, push-ups, some dance, strength training exercises. So all this exercise has to be incorporated into our daily routine. Next slide. But there are certain things that which will hamper our immunity, suppress our immunity. We have to take care of them. Smoking, no; alcohol, poor gut health, too much stress, lack of physical activity, tobacco consumption, tamaku, and then poor quality diets, being rich in fats, salts, and being low in protein and fiber and vegetables. Next slide. So my final slide is that I'll just give you some take-home messages. So there is no nutritional magic pill that can boost immunity instantly. Building up immunity is a long process that needs a holistic approach. Focus on all 4 pillars to build a strong immunity, that is diet, exercise, stress management, and sleep. Eat well, but do not overeat. And it is important to be prepared for and not to be scared of the COVID-19 infection. And last slide is that together we all can overcome the COVID-19, and we have to practice the 3 very cardinal features of this COVID-19: masks, then social distancing, and hand washing. With this, I finished my talk, and it's open for any discussion or comments.
Thank you very much, Dr. Namrata. This actually, we are not having questions right now because we have to manage our time.
Sure.
And very nicely you've very nicely presented on our balanced diet and other associated activities that we should follow to build up our immunity, which is not a one day's job but a long-term effort. So thank you very much. And at this point of time, I would request Dr. Manju Sharma, who is our chair, to say something about these entire proceedings, and then we will go on to the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sharma. All the lectures, Professor Paramjeet, Khurana, Professor Akhilesh, Tyagi, Dr. Madhulika, and lastly Dr. Singh, and certainly Professor Mehta, Bamji. All these lectures have been very informative. There ought to be duplication because the theme is the same, So that we don't mind. But what I feel that from all these recommendations, one thing which has come out very clearly that our plant-based products. I hope Archana you are noting our plant-based products can be biofortified, can be value added, and used in a different way, are probably one of the most useful resource for the rural poor, and with which we can reduce the malnutrition of rural women, pregnant women, lactating women, and their children. Dr. Mehta Bamji, am I right? I'm asking you, ma'am.
Yes, her mic is on the. Uh,
Okay.
Dr. Bamji, can you hear Dr. Bamji?
Did you hear?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, you are right. Can you hear me now?
Yes. She
Yeah,
asked
no,
you
I
something.
muted myself. Sorry.
No.
No, I'm not.
Okay, doesn't matter. The second point, which also impressed me a lot, is the small home garden in rural areas. Every new family can have a small home garden with palak, gajar, what Dr. Madhulika Agarwal showed. Palak and gajar and tomatoes, green peas, all these very important components of being micronutrient as well as nutrition. I think a small home garden with villagers must be recommended. And when we go and give lectures in the rural areas, we should emphasize that a small nutrition garden of these important plants, and we should give them the plant species, is very important. To come to the tribal area, some of the things which again Dr. Madhulika Agarwal presented, the NASI has a very big program run by 25 institutions in the country for the welfare of this tribal population, ST population. And Dr. Santosh Shukla, I see him here, and he is coordinating that program. The important thing which came out from Dr. Madhulika Agarwal's lecture is that the tribal population of the country, especially the women, need a lot more attention, a lot more attention. I think we have been able to take care of the urban women to some extent, but basically, if you see the lactating women, the stunted children, the wasted children, the underweight children, and women also who are anemic in most of the cases is very relevant for us. And I would like both Dr. Santosh Shukla and Dr. Archana Sharma to note and include in their programs this whole question of reaching the tribal population. And one vegetable which was shown by all the speakers, that is palak, good source and of iron required by the anemic women. It will be very. So far from the morning lectures, what I have tried to call out is the plant and the bioresources are extremely important for our country. And till we realize that, I'm really being very honest with you, till we realize that the plant resources must be used properly, this malnutrition problem of the poor people cannot be handled. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Dr. Sharma. I would ask the panelists if they have any comments or questions. I can't hear you, ma'am. Are you mute? No, yes. Any comments or questions? If not, I would request Dr. Ajay Ghatak to give the vote of thanks. Is he around?
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to introduce him first. He is a Meghna Shah Fellow at NASI, and his area of specialization is optics. and he is a fellow of the Optical Society of America and was professor at IIT Delhi, a recipient of Shanti Sharup Bhatnagar Prize for Science and Technology in Physical Sciences. In recent years, he has taken a keen interest in bringing the genius of Albert Einstein to the wider public and was invited to present a TED Talk on Inside Einstein's Mind. He is the recipient of many awards and honors, including the Esther Hoffman Beller Medal of Optical Society of America and Galileo Galilei Award of the International Commission of Optics. Professor Ghatak, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Sanjeeva Saha. Actually, Dr. Manju Sharma has very carefully summarized the entire meeting. For me, it was a great learning experience. So I would first sincerely like to thank Dr. Manju Sharma and yourself, Dr. Chandrima Saha, for taking the initiative of organizing this very important workshop. Particularly, there are just too many people in India who are malnutrition, as was pointed out by several speakers, that India is ranked 102 of 117 countries as far as global hunger index is concerned. I did not know that it was so bad, and therefore it brings about the importance, the tremendous importance of such a workshop. I think more such workshops should be conducted so that there is a general awareness among the poorer section of the people as to what steps should be taken. And some of the guidelines were also pointed out by various speakers. My sincere thanks to Dr. Mehta, Bamji, Dr. Paramjeet, Khurana, Dr. Akhilesh Tyagi, Dr. Madhulika Agarwal, Dr. Namrata Singh, and Dr. Shelly Praveen for giving their wise thoughts and to a person who is not a specialist like myself, it was once again a tremendous learning experience. I thank again Dr. Manju Sharma and Dr. Chandrima Saha for hosting the event, and my thanks to INSA and NASI, particularly Dr. Neeraj Kumar, Mr. Karthik, and Dr. Archana Pant for organizing this flawlessly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Ghatak. I myself, on my behalf and on behalf of INSA, would like to thank everyone and also people from NASI, Dr. Archana Pant, Dr. Neeraj, and Dr. Santosh, and also the speakers, Dr. Bamji, who was very excited throughout since I told her, and we have done a mock exercise, and she was really, I mean, it's so great to see her so excited. And also Dr. Manju Sharma, who actually proposed this. It was really great that we could bring together a set of people to give across our the feelings and messages and also the facts of about nutrition and immunity and how we are fighting the pandemic, and that the nutrition value is actually built over decades, where what we eat and what we actually how it is manifested in our system as immunity is the importance of the diet. Very often we sort of overlook it. So I am extremely happy that we've had this nice collection of people giving today's lectures, and I thank everyone, and we also finished on time, and thank you very much, and I hope this INSA-NASI collaboration happens more in future. Together we can be stronger, and together we can put out many things that not only on nutrition, on many other things we can work jointly and sort of give it to the nation in a better way. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lastly, I would like to thank Karthikeyan. Sorry, Karthikeyan. I would like to thank Karthik because he was the one who actually provided the platform.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Karthik.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelly, thanks a lot for being with us and coordinating this whole program.
Thank you, Archana.
I just want to ask Dr. Bamji one thing. Can you hear me, Dr. Bamji?
Dr. Bamji, can you hear?
Unmute.
Can you hear me, Dr. Bamji?
Yeah, but she needs to unmute. So we
Ma'am,
cannot.
I'm stopping YouTube feed. Is it okay?
Dr. Bamji, please unmute. Dr. Bamji, please unmute. Dr. Bamji, please unmute.
1 minute.
Yes, yes, you're unmuted. Yes.
Dr. Bamji.